I bring our meeting to order. Welcome everyone that came tonight. And we will be talking about our budget updates. And if you have the agenda, you know what we're doing.
I'll ask Ms. Hurd to come forward.
Let's have a little prayer though first.
Yeah,
Let's
thank
have a
you.
little prayer. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for this day, because tomorrow will be Good Friday. Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you that you died for us and that you covered all our sins. Let us do this meeting in order the way you would want us to do it. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you for everything that you've done. Oh, Heavenly Father, even the death of our superintendent's mother, let her know that she's in a better place and that she's doing good now. So, Heavenly Father, just be with all of us tonight. Keep us in good health so that we will be able to do your will. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so, is that on you?
That's Miss
Ms.
Hurd.
Hurd.
Oh, Ms. Hurd. Okay, Ms. Hurd.
Give us a budget update.
Dr. Kelly, Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening.
Good evening.
We will start with our budget presentation and go through the items. And just a reminder that as we go through this, we'll probably go in much more detail tonight than we will on Tuesday evening, since chances are the information will not have changed by Tuesday. But if for some reason we do have additional information, then I obviously would share the additional information with everybody on Tuesday evening and let you know that we do have additional information.
Thank you.
So, yes, ma'am.
Is that a 3-minute timer we're
All
putting?
right. Y'all better listen fast. So just, as we've always done, we keep showing this, we keep moving our little dollar sign here down the arrow till we get to the end. The budget presentation that you're going to see is mostly the same numbers that you saw at the last board meeting. We have not received new projections from the state. So again, what you see tonight will be House Ways and Means. However, the full House has already finished the budget. Senate Finance has finished their portion of the budget, and the Senate starts their budget on Tuesday. So, the full Senate. So that's where we are in the process. And this is kind of exactly what we just talked about. And the legislators have slated May 6th through the 8th as their conference committee, but I think that Mr. Newton will confer with me on this, that they never meet this deadline. It's typically June, middle of June, when it gets into conference committee, really. But I hope they stick to this guideline, this timeline. That would be great. Some important dates for Anderson 5. Obviously, we have our board meeting on Tuesday, which again, the budget will be on the agenda. We will need first reading of the budget on the May 12th board meeting. So we probably are going to ask for some decisions on Tuesday evening in regards to the budget, so we can prepare the first reading of the budget for you. I'm going to show you a lot of different options tonight. We are not asking for any kind of vote from you guys tonight on any of the items, but if the board as a whole feels very strongly about something, and then we can have that ready for Tuesday night. But again, that's completely up to you guys. The public hearing will be posted to the media on May 16th, and we have requirements with that public hearing posting. We have the standard format. It is designated by state law, so that's why it looks the way it looks. We have times that we have to meet after it's posted, that we give the public enough time. So that's why we already know the date that it has to be posted to meet all of the guidelines for the next thing. Our budget report will be provided to the county board by May 29th. That is typically their deadline. They have not given us a deadline yet, but it's typically always been the very last Friday of May, so I'm anticipating that to be the same. Our public hearing and second reading of the vote would be June 10th, and then we will present to the county board our budget at some point later in June. They have not reached out to give us a date for that just a couple of items that have changed, tonight versus what you saw at the last board meeting, and this actually came about this week. I didn't think we were gonna have a lot of changes, but the Senate version of the budget, there's proviso that they have put out, so they haven't gone through the full process, but they're talking among themselves, and what they have put out is that the health insurance should have been, in their mind, on the employer and not the employee. So the House version of the bill right now says that the 4.6% health insurance increase is going to the employees, and the Senate version says the 4.6 is going to the employers. So that was a new change for us. Anytime there is a health insurance increase, it goes into effect in January of a year. So when we see this 4.6% increase for the 25-26 school year, it actually will not go into effect until January. But the way our pay system works and the way our insurance works, you get it withheld from your December check for your January coverage. So this 4.6% increase would go into effect for our employer, if it's employer, in the actual December check. So it's really a 7-month increase. What you're gonna see in the budget is the 7-month increase. I did not go ahead and calculate 4.6 for the entire year. The year that we're in right now was 11.9% increase for the employer, and we did put that full one in, so you don't have to come back and add more to that. We can go ahead and add the other percent in to do a full year, if that's the pleasure of the board, we'll be glad to do that. And so obviously that is something that will probably go to conference committee, since both of them, they have differing, one's on the employer, one's on the employee, they're gonna have to go to conference committee to see where that, so that one may be one that we truly are waiting on. But my philosophy from here for you at the board I will always take the most aggressive route, expense-wise for you. So I'm gonna give you worst case scenario, and then if it happens to move back to the employees, that would be funds that you could, allocate elsewhere. I never wanna come back and say, oh, by the way, I made the assumption that it was gonna go to the employees and it actually came to the employer. I'm always gonna go to the most aggressive line for the employer and then give you guys, and Dr. Kelly, the option of how to spend the money if it doesn't come to fruition. But again, it'll always be very transparent to you on what I've done. So the items that I personally am watching that have a financial impact from Columbia is the boat tax bill that we talked about. Again, there's a Senate and House bill on that. For us, that was about a $700,000 loss in revenue. Had a meeting with the county, it's probably been about 2 weeks ago now. Actually, it was right before spring break, it was the end of March. And that they're watching this obviously closely as well, because it is a big deal to the county, not only the school districts, but all municipalities and the counties across the state as well. So those are the two big things.
If that happened, when would that take place? Would that be in January, or would that take place immediately, or?
It would go when these tax bills were coming out, right? I think it will take effect immediately onto the tax bills that go out in October.
Boats are, I don't know, calendar year.
Oh, they're not all county.
No, because I got one due in May and one due in October.
So
So
they're like-
that's why I'm asking.
I don't know.
The most expensive one is in May.
So you wanna know?
Yeah.
I can find that out.
I mean, it's just like car taxes. They
Yeah,
rotate,
so
they
it's like-
rotate.
It's not like home.
Yeah.
So you saying these boat taxes, we will get some of that money for the school?
No,
district?
we'll lose it.
No, we'll lose it.
They're gonna cut them in half.
But the insurance money, we would get that.
We don't get the money, it's, the House version of the bill says that the employees have to pay for it out of their paycheck. The Senate version says that the employer, so the school district has to pay it. So the House version, we don't add additional costs to the budget for next year, but the Senate version, we're gonna add $300-something thousand that I have in the spreadsheet to show you tonight. So it's a $300,000.
So that's,
Yeah.
so we're looking at $1 million that can be cut out of our budget.
Yeah,
I don't have the 700,000 in the
But,
budget,
but
but
it's-
I do have the health insurance.
I read the state newspaper version of that, and it said that the Senate bill appropriates more money to the schools to cover that cost.
If you had asked me probably 5 years ago, I would have told you when I talked to you about the House version of the budget, the Senate's always gonna come in with additional money for
Right.
school districts. That they used to be, I mean, I could count on it, that the Senate was gonna give school districts more money than the House did. It's just the way they did it every year. The last 2 years, it's been reversed. The Senate has actually cut the money. Now, they may be talking next week internally among themselves and how it's made it to the media, that they're gonna give more money to that.
Yeah.
We haven't heard that.
I don't think they were gonna pay it, but they were appropriating the money to the schools to.
I do know that, the Board of Economic Advisors met and did not change their projection, which is kind of unusual. They typically revise it every time they meet, every quarter, and tell the legislators how much additional funding they have to appropriate in the state bill, and they did not change their, their projection of surplus.
But when they did their surplus, wasn't it a $1.9
It was a lot.
billion surplus
It was a
that they
lot.
still have, either recurring or one-time money to spend? 1.9 billion.
It's a lot. And I think that everything that I'm reading right now, the biggest, impact is that they're wanting to lower the income tax.
Yes, to 6%.
Yeah, to from 6.8 to 6%.
But not fix the pension fund.
Not fix the pension fund.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to
We need
keep,
people
I just wanna
common
keep this on your radar, that I do not have the boat tax in these numbers, the boat tax loss. So if we lose that, I would need to come back to you and say, that is a loss in revenue. And hopefully we'll hear something fairly soon on if it's moving or not. Cause some things, you know, they have a lot of steam and then they kinda get in there and just kinda die until the next year. We are in the first year of a 2-year legislation season, okay. So it may be that it's rolled over to next year. Just
Kind
not
of like
for
liquor,
sure.
liquor liability thing, keep hearing about, keeps getting pushed around.
Yes.
Okay.
So, all right, so, I know Dr. Kelly sent you some information about zero-based budgeting, and, it's been around a good while. I know that, Mr. Dukes had asked us about zero-based budgeting, and, so I mean, I'll be honest, I did a Google search on it, and was like, okay, let me try to find some very neutral articles that will give us some details and some examples of how zero-based budgeting works. I have never done a true zero-based budget in any organization that I've worked in, which, that's not that many, but, we have tried to do some, variations of it. I don't think that hardly any organization, even including private sector, do a true zero-based budget. Everything is zero and you start from the ground and go forward. You typically kind of pick a process and work through that. But again, that would be the pleasure of the board. We will do whatever you would like us to do. I do think it is a time-consuming project.
I don't see any wasting our resources, on something that we don't know is effective. I mean, that's a lot of resources being dumped on the finance part, that's ridiculous.
Well, we did, I will say this, back in 2018, Mr. Dukes and I actually did this together. We wanted to, you know, I never want to think that I have all the answers for the schools or the school district from a financial standpoint. You know, what do the principals know that they need, even though they have the opportunity, and they all come, it's not just an opportunity, it's a required meeting, that they meet with the leadership team and the other necessary instructional team members to go over their budget. And so they always have the ability to talk about everything, and some of them are really, really good at it, and some of them don't really come in and ask for a lot of things. Some, I say good at it, what I mean is, some of them come in and they ask us from everything from the parking lot to the restrooms and every classroom in between. We get a laundry list of items that they need. And then some principals come in and say, I'm really good with what I have, you know, I might need a little more instructional materials if you could help me with that. But, you know, I'm good on everything else. So we really have a range with our principals. And obviously the team gets together and we look at that and try to determine based on the plan of the board and the superintendent, what would fit and what would not fit before we add it into the budget for you guys to see. But what I was gonna say was, back in 2018, Mr. Gay may remember this, we sent the principals, in fact, I pulled them from a meeting with Mr. Wilson with his blessing. I think he was celebrating some teachers, and that we had a lunch and learn with all of our principals. And, they came, and I gave them their allocation. Each principal got their allocation, so if you were a Title I school, you got your general fund allocation and your Title I allocation. And I said, you are now the superintendent of Calhoun District. So if it's Calhoun Elementary School, it's Calhoun District. And you make all of the decisions. You get to decide everything. Here's your allocation, what do you want? You pick the number of teachers, you pick the number of interventionists, you pick the number of custodians, you pick everything. We did not allow them to do culinary. We gave them the salary books. We gave them how much FICA and retirement are. I've got the whole project. I found the email and brought back a lot of memories because I was like, wait a minute, Mr. Dukes and I did something kind of like this several years ago. And so we gave it to them, and then gave them like 3 months, and then they came back and presented it to us. And I was really disappointed, to be completely transparent, that nobody came up with anything new and creative. I wanted somebody to really take it, that everybody went through what we do. Teacher-pupil ratios, I need supplies, I need this, I need that. And it's just the world that we live in. It was just, so, we are happy to do whatever the pleasure of the board is. However, let me explain what we do right now, so everybody is on the same, so everybody has a complete understanding. From a staffing standpoint, for teachers, we do teacher-pupil ratio. That's classroom teachers. So that's where we start. First thing we probably start with on budget is the teacher-pupil ratio calculations. For other staffing in the schools, we might look at state mandates, guidance counselors, PE classes, related arts classes. We kind of look at the number of homerooms and the number of sections needed for the related arts, or for guidance, it would be the number of what the state mandate is. And then for other departments, to get anything added into the budget, you have to bring it to the budget process and then comes to the board. That's typically how anybody gets additional staffing added outside of the teacher-pupil ratio calculation. From an operations standpoint, I don't mean operations from Mr. Grant's department, I mean operational of the school building, and the utilities are based on the previous year. I look at what's in last year. We talk to Duke Energy and see what they're increasing for electricity, water, and who all of the utility companies we use, and it's based on the previous year, plus what they're telling us. Our school operations, so every school gets a dues account. That's due to our Cognia fees that we're required to pay. Everybody gets the amount of whatever that bill is going to be. And then any supplies that a school has, it's based on their school population. So they get instructional supplies based on their population, they get media supplies, they get health room supplies, they get administrative supplies. Everything is based on the number of students that they get. When we budget the supply allocation. And then if they need purchase services or, if they needed something other than that, they spend it and we code it to a proper expenditure, and then we just move the money from supplies there. We don't give them additional money, so they get an allotment, and it's based on the number of students. That's how we've done the budget in the past. For departments that are not a school, obviously the finance department, all of the departments that are represented here tonight, they get their current year's allocation, and they get to change that up however they would like without the bottom line changing. If they need the bottom line to change for additional funding to go into the budget, that has to be brought to Dr. Kelly and then comes to you guys to go into the budget process. But we do allow the departments to have all of their budgets to say, for example, in finance, if the copier went up $1,000 and I didn't go to Dr. Kelly and say I needed additional money, if I was looking at my budget and maybe my supply account could take over that $1,000, I would reduce my supply budget by $1,000 and increased my copier budget by $1,000. So we do give the department heads that flexibility every year to do that, as long as the bottom line stays the same. And then, like I said, the team meets with Dr. Kelly and, with the principals and with departments. Any questions on the current budget process, zero-based budgeting, articles, anything?
I appreciate you bringing it up. I had read in the clippings, you know, how we get our little clippings, that Lexington One had used that budget method, and I was curious and looked it up, and my simple definition is, well, traditional budgeting is kind of what we do now. I mean, we start with what we have, and if we have money, we build, and then if it looks like it's gonna be a deficit, and then we cut. We don't cut until there really is a deficit. Is that right? I mean, that's.
Unless the departments need money in other things,
Right.
then they cut to get what they need without increasing the budget.
So zero-based budgeting would simply be starting with each line and building it. I know that's impossible in schools simply because there's so many recurring costs, so many things that we gotta pay the utilities, we gotta pay all these things that we do. But I guess it's just a concept of we should not just assume because we have it and we can pay for it that we need to keep it going. There's just really no sacred cows is what I'm thinking about. And I'm thinking a couple of items in years past, such as IB, and reading recovery is one, simply because we talked about that for how many years? Do we need to cut it? Do we need, because it was so expensive. You know, a teacher only sees six students generally a day, and you're paying a full price for a certified teacher for that. And eventually, we did away with it, and that was probably a good decision. We probably should have done it sooner. But that was kind of a sacred cow for a long, long time. So I'm not saying start from scratch, let's go to a zero-based budget. I'm just simply saying let's just adopt the concept of, and I think we need to be able to agree that if there's, ask the question, if there's something that's not working, do we need to keep it? If it's not valuable, do we need to keep it? If it's, priorities, initiatives, all those things that departments come up with, especially in instruction. I mean, instruction has lots and lots of things that we try. We used to sit around and go through all of our technology, all of our apps, and all of the things that we put on the computers, and all of the programs that we have. Is it working? Is it not? Is it worth the cost-benefit analysis, basically? So I'm just saying, let's. I'd ask the board to just be open, of course, that if something's not working, let's consider downsizing, or if a board member brings it up and they question it. I know Bill had some items from January that we have on, and we want to, that kind of disappeared, and now Amy, you're going to bring those back so we can just.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've always done that.
Yeah, Trip,
I mean, that's
I
nothing
agree
new.
with you too, that, in education, a lot of times, just like software, okay, we may bring it in for this purpose, and it really didn't do what we want to do, but we keep paying for it, and we keep paying for it, and we keep paying for it. And until we finally say, hey, we need to cut the budget, let's go to this, So I've always been in favor of reviewing our programs on a regular basis. I won't say what regular needs to be. It might be different for different programs. But reviewing them, hey, if it's not working, let's try something new. Let's get rid of this old and try something new. And I see us doing that in our math curriculums and our reading programs that we use. I see it happening, but we've just never formalized the process. So I'm happy with, as long as we're continuing to do it, not having to formalize it. But
Well, I think I have a really good example of something. I don't think Ms. Gay will mind me sharing this. We went through 2007 and 2008 for the few folks that were here at that time, which was just devastating. And we looked at every line item.
I wish you would bring that up.
That never happened. Mr. Dukes and I wish that didn't either. I have a whole folder of, we met a lot.
We worked hard.
We worked really hard. Lots of flow charts. That's when Mr. Dukes taught me how to use several software, because it was an interesting time. But, after 2000, when we started coming back, there was era money that the state pushed in for everybody to kind of recover. So we got all this extra money when we, after the big budget cuts, and we kind of stabilized, and we We started back on the upward trend of trying to dig back out of what we had done. And then, the state was pretty good to school systems over the next few years after that, and we got a lot of state money, that had a lot of flexibility with it. So for Anderson 5, we did a lot with what we called at-risk funding, lots of software in at-risk funding. We had some staff in at-risk funding. We had technology in at-risk funding. Well, then about 5 years ago, the governor cut the at-risk funding. And that was our biggest state fund that wasn't tied to taxes that we had any flexibility on. So we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? Then COVID hit, and we got all the COVID money. And so we were able to keep rocking right along, and now the COVID money is gone. So this year is really the first year that I will truly say that our principals are having to hear the word no some, unfortunately, unless they can really articulate the importance of it, back to what you're saying, not just that but this is what I've always had and I need it to keep going, but they can't articulate why they need it to keep going. They have really had to cut back, and we haven't been able to just fund the things that we have in the past. So where I'm getting with Ms. Gay is, we had over $2 million worth of software when you said software, and it's very hard because software might be really important to one school, and a different software is really important to another school. And we do look at usage. We look at teacher usage on the software when we start looking at it. And again, we see that it might not be used in one school and it might be used in another, but it might be a district initiative. And it's really hard because when teachers move and choose to transfer between schools, they want to take that with them. So you have a few little teachers that want these softwares and these teachers want these softwares. And so we had a laundry list of softwares. And then I think Mr. Dukes will agree with this. Education is, the marketing people for education, this is their favorite thing. Let me give it to you for free. I will give you that free. And so teachers jump on that free software and it does just enough to get them hooked. Oh, but you want to do more? You want to customize that for your class? You got to buy the paid version. And so one little paid version here, one paid version there, and then it just starts exploding. So we had been talking when Esther was ending, we knew a lot of software had been in it. Ms. Gay and her team has worked all year long, taking in the budget from about $2.5 million worth of software. We have $750,000 in the budget for software. So she has been meeting with principals, meeting with teachers, and meeting with her staff, looking at usage. And we are within budget, correct, for next year? We are within budget. Now, was it painful? It was. Are there gonna be some teachers upset that software are not gonna be renewed? They are. But we had to make a decision that was best for the district to keep it going, to meet the best instructional needs that we thought we'd get the most bang for our buck. So, I just said that was one example. When you said that, I went, oh, wait a minute, Ms. Gay just presented to us that after months of us checking the Google Sheet, and I'm like, Ms. Gay, I can't quite tell that we're in budget. She presented to Dr. Kelly and I this week, and actually the whole team. I think that, I'm in budget. I am in budget with the state paying us back with some money. Yes, it was a lot of hard work. So, but Mr. Dukes, I completely agree with you. That, I mean, none of us, I don't think, want to just have something. Now, we all like a little bit in your account just in case something happens, but not major programs. So I would personally agree with you as well, Mr. Dukes, that we should look at programs to ensure that they are. And Ms. Morgan, our federal programs person, presented to Dr. Kelly and I the other day that Title I is piloting a new program in their areas to see if it works, and then it may be something that the district wants to do. You're putting all the data in from the different softwares and from the different programs that we're using in Title I, and you're going to get your return on investment. So it's a software that we had to buy, we have to upload it. It is intensive on the federal programs people, but then it's going to turn around and tell us this is what you pay, and this is the growth that you got, or this is what you pay, and this is how much time usage that you spent on it. So I think we're moving in the right direction on some of what you all wanted, but I will be the first to say, it's easy to sit and look at the finance budget when I'm checking it and go, oh yeah, we still have $3,000 worth of finance supplies, instead of me saying, do I really need those $3,000 in supplies next year? But I think what happens, and I'm only speaking for myself, is I don't necessarily wanna give it up and then it's lost forever. Because what if checks go up and my printing budget goes up next year? Or tariffs come on and now everything coming over has got 20% and I gave up the money. So I think that it's a hard concept for people, that they're afraid they won't get it back if they give it up.
I can remember years ago, we used to do a lot of work at Columbus University. A lot of stuff got done between now and the end of June because they had that if we don't spend it, they cut my budget because we didn't need it. They felt like they're being punished for being frugal with their money and they cut the budget, so.
Well, and in our world too, because that happens
Yeah.
a lot in education.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna sit here and say
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't. But the other piece of it too is sometimes we go through a spell and then we do buy a lot toward the end of the year, but it's our principals getting ready for the next school year.
Yeah.
So they can't really wait till July, now the kids are coming back so early. So after school ends, the principals, they really ramp up for the next school year. One example is they're currently looking at their one book, one school for next year, and that's gonna be paid out of this year's budget. But they did the same thing last year, so the money's in the budget, but now's the time for them to start thinking about it.
The software stuff you're talking about, was any of that able to be paid for with ESSER funds?
Oh, we paid all of it.
So okay. Because I knew we kept preparing, this is going in, we
Yes.
don't need to live on it.
And that was one of the things, if you look right now in your software budget, in the financial statements, there's a bunch of money left.
Yeah.
We bought everything with ESSER before it ended September 30th.
Okay.
But next year, there is no ESSER to buy it, so that $2.5 million worth of ESSERs and software that was done this year, now it's gotta fit in $750,000. So I really think that next year is the first year that we haven't had extra state money, COVID money, or just the state giving us a lot of money. I think we're getting state money, we're still getting good state money, but it's more designated than it has been in previous years. If that makes sense. But I think that Dr. Kelly would want you to, if you have a concern about a program that you see in our budget somewhere, I know Dr. Kelly well enough to know she would want to know, so then she can put the right person in whichever division that is on, to looking at it to see, is it what it's costing? So, yes, so Mr. Dukes, I do agree with you. I think zero-based budgeting might be hard for a school district, because then what I'm afraid, and again, this is just Amy's personal opinion, not the school district or anything else, I think everybody will panic and the budget's gonna go sky high, because they're gonna start telling you why all the things that we haven't given them over the years, well, I need that, well, I need that, well, I need that, y'all told me to justify what I needed, and I need $4 million, even though you only gave me $2 million. So I think it just puts the board and us in kind of a hard place to say, yes, we do know that you need all of that, but we have to fit it within our budget.
Thank you.
I appreciate it being brought up. I got a couple acknowledgments about it and then a few comments. It obviously involves more work. I think some boards are also better suited for it. You know, if you've got a solid majority of board members that want to go through it. If you don't, or you've got, you know, you got a lot of disagreements on a board, it would certainly make it harder. As far as some of the comments on it, I think in an ideal sense, it would involve stakeholders and community members, and that's where the control of it starts getting dispersed. I remember coming up to you, Mr. Bradshaw, before I was elected and saying, you know, why has there never been a budget review committee? And I believe you said, well, if you get on the school board, then I'll talk to you about the budget. Well, you know, here we sit. But I do think, and I think that's idealistic to involve the community, but I think sometimes you have boards that are composed of people that really do want to do that. But again, I acknowledge it would involve a lot more work. I also think it could be done as a sort of a reset and not every year, that it could be planned to be done on some occasion where you could go, whether it's every 5 years or something like that, and have some sort of mass reset and say, we're gonna take the time, you know, this year, every 5 years, and go through all this and justify it. I think it helps keep us honest, and I think it also makes sure our education program's where it needs to be, because if you're constantly having to justify it, and I think if you can't sell it to yourself and others, then, you know, you may should have been questioning it. So, I do think there's some positive elements to it. I'm not sure, with the current makeup of the board and the, you know, the diverse group of opinions, which is good. I think it's great that we don't all agree on everything. I think that's one of my favorite things about this board, sitting in the audience as a audience member for all those years, and, you know, not hearing a lot of back and forth or different opinions. It concerns you, because we should represent a diverse group of people and ideas and opinions, and we are gonna have disagreements, and I think that's good. So I do think zero-based budgeting is common sense. I acknowledge that it would involve a ton of work. I wouldn't wanna stress your department on it, and certainly not every year, but, you know, and finally, the school level doesn't concern me as much. And I know I'm still new and don't have a great grasp on how each one of them are spending the money, but they're not primarily my concern.
I would disagree. There's always been a lot of back and forth over the budget when you start it. This, between you and I, Amy and Rick and you, it's individually. And then when we met, that's kind of why I quit having committee of the whole. We got one citizen here tonight. We never had anybody. Everybody said, y'all rubber stamp everything. And that's what we're gonna see again. But, no, we've always had a lot of back and forth on the budget, a lot of questions, trust me. Rick goes through the fine tooth comb, I would. It's just individually to get our answers on, because we all have different areas we pay attention to. So I disagree completely with that.
And that's not the first time that.
With what part specifically?
That there's no back and forth. There's a lot of discussion went on with the budget, always has been.
Yeah, I don't think there
It
was
just,
any
it just wasn't in
discussion.
public forum, because we do all that back here, phone calls, emails, there's a lot goes on with the budget. I mean, we're not out of tune with the budget, never have been. That's a
And-
ludicrous statement.
It's not the first time zero-based budgeting has been brought up. I brought it up several years ago, gave Amy heck about it, and finally she sits down and she shows me what it would entail, and what we gain from it. And, you know, that's when I kind of quit talking about zero-based budgeting. Even though I like the idea, I just don't think it's feasible in the school.
It's hard in the school, but I'm glad Mr. Thompson.
Well, if it's
said
never
this.
been done, it's hard to say it wouldn't work.
Well, and I didn't say it wouldn't work. I just said it didn't seem
I think
feasible.
Mr. Deeds will tell you that in 2008, we pretty much went zero base. I mean, we didn't start from zero, but we started close.
Why do you think that was done?
Oh, we didn't have choice.
We didn't have any money.
Budget
We were
cut.
we were limestone, it was gonna get shut down.
Yeah.
So everything had to be justified from everybody. I mean, we gave people 2 weeks' notice and they were fired, multiple people. I mean, up to close to 100 people, just because we couldn't even pay them for the next 4 months. So that became a very, I've never been through something as stressful as that, and that's why I probably am as conservative as I am now on the budget, is because if we ever have a January budget cut December budget cut like we did then, getting the information in January, I wanna be able to make it through June 30th. So that's why I am protective of the fund balance, because I don't ever want us to have to sit in the meetings that we sat in and cut the hundreds of people that we cut. We took light bulbs out of every other light to try to reduce that. We unplugged everything in the district to save on utilities.
Didn't cut the grass.
We did everything that we could do to survive, to get through to the budget process, to start over going forward. But, I mean.
Well, the school district will always survive. It will go through hard times, but it will never go under,
We were not
unlike
gonna
private
survive.
business.
We
It
were not
will
gonna
survive, I can promise you. It will. A
If we
public
had not have
entity
made
as public
cuts,
schools
we
will
would-
survive.
We couldn't have made payroll.
I understand
People
that.
wouldn't
I
have worked.
understand you had to cut, but it will survive.
Yes.
There you go.
And it
I
did.
don't know that
It
would
will.
have- I
It
don't
will.
know that
When
it
you
would
can
have
tax
happened.
folks, it'll survive. promise.
It
The
was
more
a-
I sit here tonight listening to what you're saying about the cuts and all, I still didn't see why you cut me, because I was Ontarian, that's what you told me. But
Yeah.
I know that's not, but you bringing it up every time and it gets to me, because I had a lot of things that I could have sued for.
So,
Well-
bottom line, I am willing to do,
Yeah.
I think, Dr. Kelly, we're willing to do whatever you want. I will say, what I wanted to say is, Mr. Thompson, I do have a little harder time, not necessarily from the instructional program, but the financial side of things. The schools don't have anything that I really think that we can justify. Like I said, we give them, I was in a school today speaking with a person and about their media center, and I said, you have $5,000 for the whole year. That's media books, that's everything that you need to run programs out of your media center. And we were going through the allocation, and it's all based on number of students. We don't really give them extra funding for things that they want to do unless it's really brought forth as an instructional incentive. With cell phone policy, that's when we learned that some of our instructional programs, our teachers were actually having the students use cell phones. So then we had to buy iPads to keep the instructional program going. And so that was not a budgeted expense, and had we done zero-based budget, that principal would not have asked for that during the budget process, because he came right before that policy went into effect and was like, oh my goodness, we can't continue running our program unless we have some iPads. So we got the iPads and kept the programs going. So there are things like that. I really don't feel like the schools have a lot of flexibility in
Yeah.
theirs. But from the department standpoint, I don't have a problem. But again, I hope you all feel that if you are looking at the financial statements and you see something that is causing you concern, please let Dr. Kelly know. She will ask us, and we will all start doing our research to find that out. And to Mr. Bradshaw's point, it used to be a standing joke that Mr. Bradshaw was gonna call me at 10 o'clock on the board meeting day and have a laundry list of questions for me, because he had gone through and he'd say, Amy, turn to page 57, tell me what's in the details of that account. Amy, turn to page 71 and tell me what this is, and if you don't have the answers, I'm gonna ask it tonight. And I'm like, yes, sir, I've got it for you. And
I think I
sometimes
remember
don't.
asking you about some underspent on cheerleading. Yeah.
We've had lots of conversations, but we'll do the pleasure of the board. That's not what really tonight is about. I don't think our district could do zero-based budgeting even if we let the schools out before all of the stuff that's required on May 12th. I just don't think. You are correct, Mr. Thompson, in that I am a workforce. I would not pass this on to my staff. They have their own duties that I've got to keep payroll and accounts payable running and our vendors paid and staff working with the schools. It would be a project for me. And I think you know, I'm not afraid of hard work. I do it, we do it every day. And, so we'll do whatever is appropriate.
We would make sure you had the resources if we decided to. I knew it'd be a lot of work. But like I said, ideally you would involve stakeholders, and I know that's not where this board is at this time.
I'll bring closure to this since I asked about it. Let's just sum it up and simplify it by saying, we just went out, no sacred cows, basically. I mean, just because we have it now doesn't mean we have to have it next year. If we can justify it, or if there's a question about it, we need to justify it. It needs to, it's the old cost-based benefit analysis. So that's just simple, and I know the board does that.
Well, like I
But,
said, I'm just
yeah.
appalled somebody accused us of not discussing these things. That wasn't even here. I just can't believe somebody have the gall to say that.
Okay, Mr. Price.
All right, so I'm gonna jump over to the 25-26 school year budget, and it's got a lot of colors on it. Do you guys have it on your screen?
We do.
Yes.
You do? Okay, good, thank you, sir. So, it's got a lot of colors on it. I'll talk to you about the colors and the numbers and everything that you have. The first item there is millage. The board is gonna need to provide direction to us if you would like to take millage or not. I think I know that, but as I've said in every board meeting, when I show you the numbers, that it is the pleasure of the board, so that's why it has XXX there. Until you give us direction as a board as to what you would like to do, there is no number there, 0 or the 2 million or anywhere in between. Then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers right there, those are all provided by the state. That comes directly from the state. And it is the House Ways and Means numbers. So again, these numbers may change, when we get the Senate version, but that is where we are standing right now.
But they won't take any of that from us,
They
will
could,
they?
yes ma'am,
Yeah.
they could. It could go lower. There are certain ones that will not go lower. This tier 3 number right here, that will not go lower. That's already set by the state. That's set by a formula from the state. We've already gotten that. So that number is not gonna go lower. But these top 4 right here are that the legislative bodies determine those 4 numbers. So it can go up or down. This is just what I have right now. It doesn't typically swing hugely. Again, it could, but it doesn't typically. If you come down here and you look at the assessment adjustment, what that is me looking at the current ad valorem property taxes and not changing the millage rate, that looking at our collections based on new cars that have been purchased, new buildings that have come online. And I think that even if you do not change the millage rate, that we can change our property tax line item by $2 million. That's not doing anything to the taxpayers. What that's saying is our budget's gonna be over by that amount, and I'm just trying to make the budget accurate. So that's where that is. It's yellow because I worked with Mr. Binka today to get the assessments to make sure that we have a good number, and he and I are gonna finalize that and get that, really scrubbed to being a good number for you guys. But I just wanted you to know, there's going to be an increase in property taxes on the budget if you so desire, but that is not going to the taxpayer. That's just looking at the tax billing that's already going to the taxpayers that we have. I don't have to change the budget. I can leave the budget as 0, but we're gonna exceed the budget. And I don't want the public to think that we're not being transparent, but that's the real rule. So I am showing you what I think it needs to increase by right now, based on what you told me, we've been working on, but he's gonna run a few more reports, because, the county obviously is like everything else. It comes and goes. People buying new cars every day. People are changing things from 6% to 4%. That impacts us. Companies closing, companies coming in. All of that impacts us. So we all have to just pick a date and go with it. So I just wanted you to see that. Again, taxpayers means nothing. This is me trying to true up the budget.
That assessment adjustment line, can you explain that one more time? I'm
Sure.
sorry, I know you just did.
What I'm trying to say, the reason I call it assessments, is the property tax revenue line item in our current budget is based on assessments. So I probably used February assessments from 2024 from the county auditor.
Okay,
And, so things have changed over the year.
gotcha.
Our tax rate hasn't changed, but additional things have been added on, so we're getting additional money. We don't use a board, us all together collectively, we don't have to change our budget, but when you see your financial statements for this month, we've met our budget already for the year, and I just want to try to be transparent to the public to say that number is too low. We're not changing our millage rate, so what's going to the taxpayer on the bill, if they look at their millage rate for this year and their millage rate for next year, if the board chooses not to increase millage, the millage rates are gonna stay the same. But I just want the budget line item to be
Thank
more
you.
accurate. So that's all that is. That's why I put that in yellow. And then, we had a board request to move, the 4K funds to the district. This is the projection for this year. We're good with that, the schools understand that, they're good with us taking those funds, and moving them into the general fund. The only thing, again, that I just wanna make sure that everybody is aware of is that this number's gonna change every year. The 4K program at Anderson 5 is an at-risk program. So our goal is to reach our at-risk students. That is goal number 1. We're trying to get them in school early to get them ready for kindergarten. That's the whole purpose of it being funded by the state. However, if you don't fund it by a certain date, I believe October, sometime in October, then you can allow other people to come be screened and come into the program and charge them the tuition to come in. We hope as a district that line item is always 0, because that means we're full with our at-risk students. And we wish we had a waiting list, and we would add additional classrooms. But right now, that's not where we are. So this year, we're gonna collect about $49,000 between our schools, on 4K funds. So we're putting that in the budget for next year, if that's the pleasure of the board. So that's kind of where our revenues are. I think we're gonna have about I am making the assumption that this is going to be a no millage increase year. So with that, again, that is the decision of the board, not the decision of Amy. But just saying, what you're seeing right now has 0 millage, and it's about a $7.4 million increase into the budget. Again, none of this will hit the taxpayer. Nothing changes from a taxpayer standpoint.
Just to clarify, the board has not made that decision yet.
You are correct. That is exactly right, Mr.
Ms. Hurd, how much do they typically, the Act 388, how much is it typically underfunded by per student every year?
I don't know per student, when we were all with the county the other day, it was all the municipalities and the county and all the school districts that met, and they were talking about homestead, and manufacturer's appreciation, because the legislation is having to increase the amount, because if not, we're gonna start getting less and less and less, but it's capped at the state for us not to get less, so there's a gap at the state level, so they're trying to figure out, are they gonna pass it down to the counties and the school districts, they're gonna fund it more, so we're dealing in all that as well. But, the last time I looked at it, Anderson 5 was underfunded from Act 388 based on our residential property by about $13 million.
That's, okay, I had somebody ask me that, then I told me
I
it was.
think the county said it was $30 million countywide. And again, I haven't looked at ours in probably 3 years. But it was about $13 million that we were not getting, because that's what tier 3 is. This increase here, the purpose of tier 3 is for the state to be paying us for the homes that we're getting. But obviously, throughout the state, I mean, houses are booming everywhere, and any house that comes up, we're not getting any property taxes from it in the school operation. So that's what this is supposed to offset, and it was about $13 million.
Well, that was where this conversation came from. This guy lives near where all his houses are going up behind Hannah, and he said, I guess y'all get a lot more tax. I said, And so I had my dissertation on Act 380. It is what it is, but I said, no, we get, bond indebtedness is about all we
We'd
get.
love to see a business.
Yeah, oh,
We'd love to
yeah.
see businesses come up. That's what we see the tax dollars.
So the tier 3 is the reimbursement for, from state sales tax for what we're not getting.
It's not for what we're not getting. What they did, when they enacted Act 388, they added a 1% sales tax at the state level that was in hopes of covering what we lost from bringing out the 4%. And so they've never,
Right.
it's never been the same. Yes, so that.
I didn't mean to say it's what we're not getting, but you're saying it's based on number of homes?
Well, property taxes would be based on home. So prior to 388, I took the assessments
I got
for
you.
the county from all of Anderson 5. So I take the 4%,
Okay.
count them, and the 6%. Now when I get the assessments, I have to back out anything that's 4%. And so when I do that, again, when I did this calculation 3 years ago, I calculated all that 4% property and put it through our millage rate, then looked at our state tier 3, and it was a $13 million difference.
But what they're paying us is based on what? It's just based on size of our,
It's based on the state, is what it is.
Okay.
And in addition, I can make it even a little harder.
no, it's all right.
But this is kind of important, it
Okay.
really is. Everything in Anderson County, that comes to tier 3, runs through the county board. So when the state tells me my allocation for tier 3, I never get the full allocation. Anderson 5 helps fund some of the other districts. That calculation runs through the county board, and then the county board tells me what I'm gonna get from that. So, sometimes you'll hear people say, like on the 14.7 meals that goes to the county board, Anderson 5 does not get the money from Anderson 5. It goes to a county pot that gets divvied out. So we're a given district. We lose money from our citizens that go to other citizens in Anderson County. This is kind of the same way. So, sorry, that's just one of those crazy things that I did want to let you know. All right, so looking at some of the mandatory costs, here's the new one that you have not seen yet. That's the $350,000. That is the 4.6% if they put it on employers for 7 months. That's what it would cost us. So, again, I'm always gonna be aggressive and show you this number. It could potentially go away, it may not. I don't believe it'll go up, though. I did contact the retirement system, Ms. Boykin at the retirement system, and asked if there would be a retirement increase on employers. And they said no increase for employer withholdings, so there's no money there. I have reached out to our insurance company and, had to kind of pull it out of him because he said, I don't like to get the calculations before the 1st of May, and he said he's still working with his, big insurance companies that covers the entire state for the SCISMID, but it's looking like our increase is gonna be about $166,000 for next year. But that was workers' comp, property, and casualty.
It's actually not bad compared to what everybody else is seeing.
Yeah,
What is our total? Do you know?
but I will find out and see, give it to Dr. Kelly to let you know. It's a lot. Workers' comp's 900,000 right now. I just don't know what property and casualty is. That's the one that I know.
And I've been waiting 5 years on the mod rate.
Write it down before I get it, so I can get it to you. Okay, we'll get you the total cost for that. And then the teacher step, obviously that's mandated at the state level too, so that's the teacher step, just using the current salary schedule there. And then the next item in orange is something that Tuesday night, you guys will have to, provide some information to me on so we can continue to move forward with the correct, number. There's two numbers here, it relates to the same thing. The state says that you have to give bus drivers 2% increase off the state scale. The state scale for bus drivers starts at about $11.60, somewhere in that range. So we've done the calculations as to what 2% would be on that, and that's your $64,000 number. However, if you guys are going to give a cost of living to all employees, I didn't know if you wanted to go ahead and do the same cost of living that you chose for other employees to the bus drivers, which might be more than the 2% that they were gonna get on their state mandated scale since it was so low. So I went ahead and calculated what 2% would be on their current bus driver scale as well. So that'll be, is that clear? I don't wanna make that confusing for
And
everybody.
didn't you tell me our bus drivers are some of the highest paid in the state?
We're in the top, Mr. Galloway, do you know, and we're in the top 3 or 4.
You got children on there that you don't wanna drive for either. I mean, you still don't pay them know what they just should give. If they're the highest one in the state. You ever drove a bus? I did, 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Back in high school.
Drove a bus for 10 years. High school
Leverage,
was
you know, all kind of jobs in the district.
Yeah.
So the only thing that's mandated, the $64,000 is mandated. We cannot go less than the $64,000. I just wanted to give you the option that if you do give a 1%, 2%, 3% to all other employees, I can go do that same calculation on the bus driver scale and make sure that it at least meets the state minimum. And if it's more than that, we can give them more than that. But at a minimum, I have to do 2% on the state scale for me, by state standards. So that's what your two numbers there are. You can decide, which ones you prefer there.
And did you say, are they making $11.60?
No, ma'am. That's what the state scale is. And, our bus drivers, the state says you have to pay them at least $11. Our bus drivers are starting out at $20.02 an hour.
Okay.
And we guarantee at least 30 hours, and that's a 180-day position. So it'll either be 2% on the $11 line, or 2% or whatever percent the board chooses on the $20 line, whichever. We can do the math on either way. Just wanted to make sure you guys knew that was an option.
But why would you say $11 and they're making $20?
Because the
That's what the
$11
state
is the state minimum. So there are districts that that's what they make. It's just not in Anderson. I don't think there's many districts left that make that. They probably don't have any bus drivers. Most of them are in the $16 range. Most districts are in the $15, $16 range for bus drivers per hour. And then we move over to the board requested costs that we talked about, from you guys. And the first line item here, this is in regards to the monthly payment for the lighting that was requested at McCants Gym parking lot. And we talked about, purchasing the light and then paying the monthly fee associated with that. So that would be the, additional monthly payment per year that it would cost for that lighting. We had a request for an additional translator. This is not a certified teaching position. This would be a translator. If any of you are familiar with Ms. Rincon, that we currently have translating from our district level that helps all schools. This would be another position like hers to help throughout. And just a reminder, when you see these budget numbers over here, please remember that does have FICA, retirement, and health insurance in it. That's the entire package for that employee. That is not the salary for the employee. We had a request to move a part-time staff member at Robert Anderson to full-time. That would be the cost associated with that. Most of the cost associated with that is health insurance, because currently they are under the required number of hours to have to offer health insurance. So that's the largest part of that. You guys have talked about the 25 teaching assistants that has been brought forward. I know we had a long conversation about that last month.
So what do they make now out?
Assistants, teaching assistants.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on just 1 minute. Teaching assistants, let me hang on. Runs by the salary, not by the hour, but it won't take me but 1 second to tell you. Next year, we're gonna have both for teaching assistants in the salary bill. If you have a high school diploma, your hourly rate is $14.14. If you have a 2-year degree, it's $14.50. Now, this is start now. This is step 1. This is the beginning. And then if you have a 4-year degree,
$14.75.
that $14.86. So again.
Do the middle step 15 or so.
Okay.
Was it 28 on that scale?
Yes, sir, there's 20.
Let's do 15 and then 28.
Sure. Okay, for a high school diploma, it's $17.44. For a 2-year degree, it's $17.80. And for a 4-year degree, it's $18.16. And then at the top of the scale, high school diploma is $21.26. Two-year degree is $21.62. Any of y'all been in my office, y'all know I have a 1950s calculator that I like much better than this iPhone. If you have a 4-year degree at 28 years, it's $21.99.
All right. That's
Mhm.
top, middle, and bottom.
So, for next time, could you get us a figure, if we put our teaching assistants on the bus driver scale, what the difference would be?
Okay, my only issue with that, and I'll be glad to do whatever the board wants, but let me explain so I can get some clarity. The teaching assistant scale's got 2-year, 4-year,
Yeah,
high school 2-year.
just do it as a single.
Just do it as a single column.
Yeah, just put them on the bus driver
I
scale.
can do that.
Because that'd be a
Where did this
significant increase.
25 teaching
And
assistants come from?
should our
What's
bus
that?
drivers be making more than our teacher assistants that are in
So
there?
you said we should have more than 25, right?
It's 25 new ones. Am I correct?
Yes,
Correct,
sir.
yes.
Yes,
Where
sir.
did that number come
okay.
from?
Yes,
I suggested that.
that's Mr.
25?
25.
Can
Been
we
5,000?
just cut that to 12
We'll see.
and go forward from
We'll
there?
see.
I mean, we didn't have teaching assistants when I was growing up. I turned out fine.
Yeah, things, with lot of debate about that. I'm just picking.
1.2 million worth.
Can
Just
I,
picking.
okay, y'all gonna start
Um,
something else up in here now, cause I was wondering, I know I talked.
Yeah, there's a
I'm
lot
for open to
of,
pay.
there's
I
a
just
lot
don't
of
think we
individual
need to add
assessment that
20.
these teachers have to do, and they're teaching it, they're doing small group. I mean, an example is, like, sit at your desk to do taxes, and all these people are in the classroom, and they're chatting, and they're trying to do things and get things done, and that's what that's a teacher's day.
Mm-hmm.
So, an extra set of hands, things are not getting easier. If you just saw the autism report, what is it, 1 in every 36 kids now has some sort of autism. That was 1 in 150 20-something years ago. So that's.
Well, I will say, and I'll add just a little bit to this too, just coming from the instructional standpoint. We added 17 additional teaching assistants last year. So we saw that need, and we saw that there needed to be some more individualization within the school. So we added 17 to the budget last year. And that was just at the elementary level. And I do appreciate Mr. Dukes wanting to individualize and look at that. But I would like to look and shift a little bit of the focus to the middle and high, because I think our middle and high need some interventionists. And research says, and Mr. Dukes I think will back me up on this, that oftentimes we give our most at-risk, neediest children to our least certified people. Most of our teaching assistants do not have a 4-year degree. And if they do have a 4-year degree, most of the time it's not in education. And so we are entrusting our least scholared, I guess, or trained, maybe that's the better way to say that, trained with our children who need the most interventions and the most detailed interventions. So I do appreciate the additional attention to adding interventions for our children, but I'm afraid because we added 17 to elementary that we might need to be looking at middle and high, because our children coming up from elementary are hitting the middle schools, and the teachers are doing the best they can, like Mr. Dukes is talking about, but they don't have any assistance with pulling kids, and we are utilizing our DISs that way this year. Our digital integration specialists are working with kids in small groups. We are utilizing our related arts teachers. So our related arts teachers at middle school are teaching classes, and then they're going and pulling small groups of children so that they can get some of that. So I am definitely in favor of adding this additional amount, but I would like for it to be looked at more of our middle and high, because we added 17 elementary last year. But that's just my thoughts. It's your budget, but that's just my thoughts on that.
So is an interventionist the same thing as an assistant, basically? I mean, from my understanding.
Not from my proposal. I want certified teachers.
I understand.
So that, I would say, if we could give a certified teacher at each of our middle schools, possibly 2 at Robert Anderson, because they are just so large, and then give an interventionist at each of our high schools that could then be used for children. Lots of our children at high schools are having to take remedial courses because they're not ready for the Algebra 1, or they're not ready for English 1. And these folks could give them that small group instruction. So it would be, Mr. Thompson, I appreciate that question, it would be certified teachers that I'm proposing. It would not be 25, because that would exceed this budget, but it would be at least 1 per middle school, 2 at Robert Anderson, just because of their size, and then 1 at each of the high schools.
So in regard to the 25, I don't have a plan for that. In other words, an implementation plan, other than what Dr. Kelly just said is the teacher needs to be working with the low students, and the assistants help with the ones in the middle and the ones in the high, because that's the expert in the classroom, is that teacher. But Dr. Kelly, I would certainly entertain middle school. Is something I just didn't.
I was
We
just
don't
curious
usually
what
have
number-
assistants there, so I would certainly entertain that.
I was just curious where the number 25 came from. I didn't know if there's assessment.
It was,
done
that'd be adding about 3 to every title school. When I proposed that in January, I didn't have all the information, because you gotta watch out. We already have them being paid for with title money, and then we have some others that are being paid for with general fund, and you gotta watch that. So I was just
planning.
focused on the title, and that would put about 3 at every title school.
In this proposal that we have right here, when we were preparing the information with Mr. Dukes, we actually pulled all of our current teaching assistants at the elementary level and kind of did an average for the cost to get it to this. So it's gonna take about 2.2 of these teaching assistants for 1 teacher.
Oh, let me ask you something else about that. You have high school, well, I had 2 years plus, but what about business? If they come into business, do you put them in high school level? If they have a degree in business and they're
If they have any sort of degree and they're a teaching assistant, if it's a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree,
no, I said in business.
if it's not a degree from a university, yes, ma'am, they're placed on the high school level.
That is
Okay, just making sure.
It
that-
could be Tri-County and they would get a 2-year. It could be Forest College, they could get a 2-year.
But they couldn't be out here working at XYZ company and come in at 4,
No, sir, it would be a high school.
If you worked at a daycare, or if you worked at Michelin, but you didn't have your associate's degree from a technical or 4-year university, then you're paid on the high school scale.
But you would for daycare get credit for working with children. So
You're-
your step would go in a day.
That's good to know. I didn't know that.
Okay, well, see, I get calls that I have a degree in business, but they still paying me out of high school. But, so really, the degree that you have has to be in education.
No,
yeah.
ma'am.
No,
No.
Just has to be an actual degree. You couldn't have gone
They
to
may
school
got
for
some
2 years and not
certification.
come out with a degree.
they may got some certification through their business, but not through an actual accredited university.
Correct.
Now,
I think that's what they're telling you.
Please tell me if I'm wrong, but we changed this scale to go to the high school 2-year, 4-year about 2 years ago. And this Civil Rights Department called every person paid on that scale and asked them to provide their documentation so then we could put it on the correct scale. So we are doing what the employees have told us.
If they did not have anything in their file, I asked for that information, so we could increase their pay.
So Ms. Leverett, if somebody calls and tells you that, please send them the human resources with their, degree, and we will get their pay changed immediately.
Now, I'll make one more comment. It just reminded me, I was at a restaurant and saw a waitress who was a student of mine at Whitehall, and she worked for the district. She was an assistant at one of our title schools, loved her job, but was being pulled a lot for subs, and you know how that goes. And if I'm a principal and I can't get a sub, that's an easy thing to do, but if we had them design, and she was actually an interventionist. She was an ESSER interventionist. And so it just got to be too stressful. She being pulled too much, too often, couldn't plan, and she had lesson plans as well as that interventionist. Long story short, at the restaurant, and this is not a fine dining restaurant, it was mostly fast food, she's making more there than she was but she loved her job, and she loved it. I said, please consider coming back, we'll look at it. So your comment about the bus drivers and getting the assistants up there.
But
would
she's
be-
also working for no benefits in their retirement.
Correct. Now,
So they
and
don't see the
and
whole
she said
picture.
that was great.
Right.
Yeah, she said that was great, and she did acknowledge that, but she just couldn't, being pulled so often and not being able to work with the kids as much as she wanted, like, doing her job as opposed to becoming a part-time sub.
I hear
part-time
that,
sub,
I
so,
hear that all the time.
yeah.
Dr. Kelly, if you could have what you're asking for and the teaching assistants, would you take them?
I would need to know, I would prefer the certified teachers to go back what I talked about, because the teaching assistants, if they're certified teaching assistants, and we do have those, yes, sir, because they're trained. But I would prefer to have certified interventionists over the teaching assistants.
Right, but if you could have both, would you take them?
It would depend on the school. I would want to work, because Mr. Dukes has talked about that too. Sometimes schools, don't utilize our teaching assistants to the best of their ability, and so we would have to design a plan for that. So before I committed the board to that much money, I would want time to create that plan.
Okay, so we will keep moving forward. The board compensation has been added in there. I know that that's on.
How far have we got with that?
I think that you're gonna get an update on that tonight. If we can just a few more items down. I think Mr. Newton's gonna get up and speak on that. The principal salary changes, this is what you guys approved last month. We went ahead and put obviously all of those changes into effect for next year, and that would be the additional cost that will be added to the budget. We had the,
And those salaries will start August, or
July 1.
July 1.
Yes,
Sorry,
it's
July
all-
1,
yeah,
okay.
All principals are all.
Okay, I'm sure they were okay with,
Yes, they were very, very thankful to the
Good,
board.
good.
Yes, very thankful when Dr. Kelly presented that information and gave you guys the credit for this coming from you. Middle school security, I think think that we discussed that in executive session a few months ago, but due to some personnel related to that, we can discuss that again tonight. Mr. Dukes had mentioned paying out folks sick leave if you, or work less than 220 days, which means you didn't get vacation. And I pulled it as of January 31st and used their hourly rate. If you do that, it's $700,000. And so that had a large price tag, which is not what most school districts do. I think we laughed and talked about, at one time, we talked about $10 a day. We've done the calculation on what $50 a day would look like. But if this is something that the board is going to want us to put in the budget, we're gonna need at least.
You're talking about when they retire?
No, sir, this would be every year. And so if you get vacation, you would not be eligible for this. But if you don't get vacation, then you would be.
That's
eligible.
days over 90. We're talking about days over 90.
Yes, sir, days
Yeah.
over 90.
They build up over 90.
And that would be sick leave.
I know y'all disagree with me, but I can't understand why when somebody retires, they don't get paid for all their time.
They don't.
I just don't think that's
Because
right.
it's 90 days.
I mean, I just don't think it's right.
And every
There's-
school district's different, some
Yeah.
do pay out all of it, some people have some people's sick leave goes up to 120 days, our policy is 90 days, so. Again, that'd be the pleasure of the board, but if you would like us to put this in there, I kinda need a number, or it's this just magical mystical thing sitting out there, and I can't really put a number with it without an estimated cost.
How hard would it be to do $10, $20, $30 per, based on what we have now, people that are over 90?
I've got it right here.
Okay,
too, so
there you
it's
go.
not very hard at all. It's, again, this was as of 1:30, but obviously, this was daily rate. This is, I mean, if we do 10, it's $10 times this.
Mhm.
$10 times this, $10 times this. That's what I'm saying. It's not a hard calculation. I'm happy to do anything you'd like to do. That's a pretty big swing in a budget there, 700,000 to 100,000.
Yeah, daily rates, I don't think we've ever considered that.
I would also like to compare this to just changing all of our sick days to personal days. We went from 3 to 5. I'd like to see us go from 5 to 12.
I think we had a discussion on that, and you and I got talking about that earlier, and I think there was some concern that you would have some that are gonna take those 12 days no matter what, because they didn't have to be.
But now we've got some experience to look back on, the difference between the 3 and the 5 that we added. So let's
I think
see.
you're gonna see people using it.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Kelly may have had some conversations with some folks that have that,
Yeah.
and it's instructionally hard because they typically take the days. So it's gonna increase your sub-budget and decrease instructional time with the certified teacher.
But we can compare that with this cost, is what I'm saying.
The idea of paying days over 90 is that people, if they're got a cough and maybe they would call in sick, they don't feel too good, but if I'm going to be paid a decent amount, I might go in because I know I'm going to get that money. So it keeps you from having a
That's
son.
right.
So that's
If it's a combination.
hard to measure that.
Yeah, if it's a combination of the two, then you could, that would encourage them to keep coming to work, to build up those days, as compared to just taking it for no reason.
I think Anderson 1 does the 12 days, do they not?
They do, and they say it's very difficult to keep, teachers and get substitutes.
That's good, that's good information.
So
We
does-
really have researched that.
Yeah.
It's,
So the substitute that you have today, the people that does the substitute, you pay them, whatever that S something, whatever
yes,
it is.
ma'am, they actually work for a company called ESS, and we pay that company pays them. So substitute teachers are not Anderson 5 employees,
That's right.
certified teachers.
But you pay them.
That's correct, we do pay them.
And I
So
know,
we have some departments that the subs are actually paid by Anderson 5. Culinary, what are we to?
Yes.
That's what, okay.
Correct, yes.
That's what I thought. So culinary subs are Anderson 5 employees, but classroom subs and, if we have subs in other places, they would go through ESS, which is an outside company, has nothing to do with Anderson School District 5. And we pay them, and then they get the folks that come into the school for us. And so we are not paying those people. We don't vet
Say
them.
that again, now that's
ESS
double
vets
talk.
them.
ESS vets them and does the sled checks on those folks.
Mm-hmm.
And It's as simple as if we don't like their actions on school grounds, we don't have to have them back.
But I'm asking you, who pay these people to come here?
It goes to my office, and we calculate through ASOP, the attendance, the management system that we have. That's where they place the need for a sub in, and we work closely with DSS, and we calculate, they each have an account, each school. And so it comes back and is charged to their school account.
Ms. Leverett, what they do is we set a rate that they're going to pay the employee, they bill us a higher rate. That's how they make their money.
So like, if we pay $15 an hour, they're gonna bill us $20.
And so that was easier than you doing it within the district? Like calling me, you know, come on in today.
Like Mr. Leon used to do.
Yeah, come on in today.
The other good thing, Ms. Leverett, is, but they wouldn't have gotten like, health insurance and all that from us unless they were a long-term sub that subbed every day and just went different places. So the company is responsible for their FICA and whatever benefits that they may have. So we just pay a flat fee, and then they negotiate the rates. I mean, we put a minimum.
Okay.
And I know I've asked this before, I think you fussed at me about it. And we've got several former principals here. Would it not be, and it maybe the cost would be too prohibitive, if you had some dedicated subs that showed up every day?
Ms. Elrod might can speak to that. We have some schools that have those.
That way it keeps, I would think, keeps you having to call somebody, call Sandra at 5 a.m. and what I need you this morning.
So we have at our highest need schools, and that has varied from year to year based on our, data at the end of the year that we go over with ESS. This year, the only school that is getting a sub daily that reports there, no phone call made or anything else, they go there every day, is Westside High School. And that person shows up, and there's been 2 days this year that they have not needed that person, that they sent her to another location.
I mean, would we be ahead of the game to just make them an A5 employee?
We could run those numbers.
I know.
It would cost us the benefits.
Yeah,
yes.
the benefits, and I just wanted, because if
And
you're,
I did come from a system that did that, and it was a nice
so
thing to have.
it has been done before. I just,
It has,
And there's some places that it's not even an Anderson 5 employee. They have a permanent sub at every school.
that's right.
So it still goes through ESS, but Mr. Bradshaw's assigned to Midway, Mr. Price is assigned to Centerville, Mr. Dukes is assigned to Whitehall, Ms. Leverett's assigned to Calhoun, and everybody has their
And they go
assignment.
there regardless, and if they don't need them that day, they may be running copies in the office, or answering
Okay.
phones in the office,
Okay.
or however they're utilized.
Okay.
That would be needed.
and we don't have to
Fully
match the
agree.
benefits.
And it keeps from pulling, could help keep from pulling, assistance and all
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Correct.
Well, that's what I was thinking, when you said pulling assistance, that's what I was thinking about that.
Intervention is not-
Making me cringe over here, because that was an Esther tutor paid with federal money, and I'm going, she wasn't poor. She just stayed in that classroom all day long, because principals were told that they couldn't do that. So, you know,
And
I'm
just
like-
make it correct, every school across the nation got extra funds, everybody,
correct.
everybody.
And principals were told that multiple times, do not pull your ESSER tutor. But I don't live under the rock that they think I
Can I jump back one?
do. Sure.
Middle school security, that's an increase in the budget that much?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then there were some, comments about, eliminating positions. And so we have one that was requested to be eliminated that is retiring, so that is an easy fix. That, calculation is there. And then the other 2 items, I believe, can be discussed in executive session tonight to put dollars there. So then if you get, we're almost done, guys. If you get to the other requests, these are not items that have come from you, but maybe that we've made, the board maybe have made a decision throughout the year, or that we started during the year that needs to get in there, or these are the items that would have come through the budget request process with principals and departments. So our elementary alternative school class, that started in January. We have a teacher and a teaching assistant and $1,000 worth of supplies. That's what those 3 items calculate up to. Ms. Martin, that handles our ML population, has run her numbers and says that she needs an additional ML teacher just due to the numbers. Our numbers are still increasing on our ML population, multilingual population. Ms. Katie, how many languages do we have?
42.
We have
42 of them.
over-
42.
So we have over 42 languages, so this is not just a Spanish-speaking teacher, it's, multilingual teacher that's gonna try to bring our students up from wherever they're from. When we did our teacher-pupil ratio calculation, that is a savings of 7 teachers, and you can see down here at the bottom, that's 8 elementary teachers, a loss of 8 elementary teachers, none at the middle school, and 1 at the high school level. Obviously, this does not include anything that Dr. Kelly mentioned on a proposal for middle or high school that she just mentioned. That would be something different. Just keep that in mind. We did have a digital integration specialist that Dr. Kelly was talking about that is, we use throughout the district that is leaving. And so we have frozen that position or eliminated that position. I shouldn't say frozen. That is my fault. That's not an accurate wording. That position has been eliminated. So that is the actual savings for that employee with all of the benefits. We are doing away with our lunch monitors. That was helping in the lunchroom, so that'll be a savings to the budget.
Well, why are you
So-
doing away with
yeah,
that?
But I won't get into that. This is a great example of what Mr. Dukes is talking about. We started that program last year. Yes, so we started the lunch monitor program last year.
It was a requirement, right? Correct, by the state?
No, it wasn't
It's not a
required.
requirement, that's why
Was
we're
it
gonna
not?
go.
Okay.
We do have a new state requirement.
Right.
And so we thought that we were reading the law a particular way, so we wanted to meet that mandate, so we went in there. We have gotten additional guidance that the way we were reading it is not the mandate. And we talked to principals and talked to teachers, and so we've done our due diligence, not just at the top level. We have met with people throughout and listened to the concerns, and they were like, this doesn't work. And so in giving proposals throughout, we do have a solution that we will be able to eliminate that. So that, it just hit me, I'm going back to what Ms. Leverett said in just a second, but that is an example of, we really do look at the things that we're doing, not to just rubber stamp and keep going every year. But that was a great example. Ms. Leverett, you're fixing to ask me something.
That's what no.
I'll
Go
let
on.
Dr. Kelly talk about this, because she will know it better than me on this.
Lunch monitors?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so, there is the law that talks about that, certified teachers have to have 30 minutes of unencumbered time. And in the law, it specified that unencumbered time, had to be within the instructional day. Well, we, under guidance, were told that the instructional day was between 8 and 2:30, because that's the instructional day. Later on, they said that could include the contractual day. So our teachers are 8 to 3. So that original lunch monitoring was to ensure that they got 30 minutes of unencumbered time, and we did that at lunch. Because they do have 45 to 50 minutes every day of planning time, but sometimes you have to have IEP meetings, or sometimes you have to have parent conferences. And this law is tied to the principal's certification. So if a teacher makes a complaint that they did not get their 30 minutes of unencumbered time that day, and they didn't, the state could come in and take the principal's certification. So we had to ensure that teachers were getting that 30 minutes of unencumbered time. And so we hired these lunch monitors. As you were saying, they were not as effective as principals, and we thought they would be, even though several schools piloted it a few months before we started, like the March through May of the year prior. And so what the principals are looking at, they have the flexibility to determine how they want to do it, but the majority are looking at from 2:30 to 3 and utilizing other folks to help with dismissal. So that's what the majority, but again, they have flexibility to structure that within their school. So because now the lunch monitors were not as effective as we had hoped, we're going to take that out.
They're not our employees.
And they are not our employees.
They are the ESS employees too, so we're kind of at the mercy of them finding people to come in, even though it was set where they could hire people to come every day, but sometimes they did.
So now you're
So
gonna let
question-
these people put these children in a car?
No, ma'am. Staff from the school will help.
Oh.
Yes.
What staff, what people do we have that we can call for to do dismissal?
So you'll use your related arts teachers, you can use some of your.
So they don't qualify for
No,
this?
sir.
Okay,
No,
what
sir.
else? Who is the
Oh.
related arts teachers?
And then other folks within the building, they might have like a media specialist or interventionist, things like that don't qualify within that law to be mandated. Lots of those folks already have an unencumbered lunchtime, For example, when I was making my schedule, when I was principal at Midway, all of our related arts folks already had a 30 minutes of unencumbered time, whereas right now, the classroom teachers go, well, prior to this year, they went to the lunchroom with their kids.
What's the dismissal time for our teacher assistants? Is it 2:30?
It's 7.5 hours, I'm not sure.
I think it's
Is it
3
3
o'clock.
o'clock?
Back in the day, it was.
Yeah.
So that is a nice savings that we were able to put in as we were looking through the budget. Robert Anderson currently has private security this year. We would like to keep moving forward with that again. It has been a big help at that school. They do have their SRO that we have, but this was in addition to that. Due to the wanting additional security at events and due to the cost of the security at our events, we have spent a lot of money this year in SROs at athletic and academic events. And so we need to budget about $125,000 to cover that expense in future years.
Oh, let me ask, Dr. Kelly, did we look, you know, you and I talked about adding more lighting at our football in the areas that I think that's the areas we're having
We're
problems.
doing that.
We're doing that, okay.
Yes, sir.
I think that's the a lot of the problem.
Yes.
And we talked about that when we
We
were
did.
really scrubbing this number and talking to the athletic directors and Mr. Grant and Mr. Lieutenant Miller here. And we think, we do hope that'll help, because Dr. Kelly said, once we rented those lights and brought them in, it did help. And so now we have actually real lighting going up, right?
Yes.
So we
That's
got.
a good idea somebody had, wasn't
That
it?
was great.
Yeah, that was a good idea about the lights, because it was dark when I was there.
So
But
we're hoping that we can still keep
Okay.
everything secured and it not just
Good.
continue to rise.
I
and
mean, it's
rise.
sad, but it's the age we live in.
Well, when you talked about resources and coming to the, I would just say, whatever you have at school, basketball, football, but football would be the best thing, is not to let those children, can you do that within a school district, not to let them walk? You
They pretty
can't
much have
walk, you
cut it
can't
out.
go over
Yeah, we
there,
did
you
cut
can't
that
go
out.
over
Yeah,
there.
we
We
did.
cut
They
that
can't,
out.
they
They
can't go
can't.
to the visitors side, the visitors can't come to the home
I
side.
think the
Well, I
only thing,
came one night-
Hannah is set up very easy because they can split them coming in. I think the problem we got at Westside is we all come in that main gate, but they've been partitioning it off. I know Lawrence did that years ago, and it cuts down where
It
they,
really helps, but I know they did that one night I was at the game and it was out.
When they did their big building program, there's two entrances, completely opposite of each
Right.
other.
yeah, the worst football stadiums in
Because
South
the
South
child was
Carolina.
calling her mama to let tell her that she wouldn't let her go far.
Well,
Yeah,
Lieutenant-
but you had to
Lieutenant
walk a
Miller's
half
done
mile
it.
too.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You had to walk a half mile
You
too.
do have to walk a half mile to get to the visitor
One
center.
question, Ms. Hurt, I don't want to jinx this, and I really kind of like, the last couple of years, we've gotten an unexpected surprise from a rental car company. Do we still get that, or?
It would be budgeted.
Okay, so we're getting that. Okay.
That will be part of this number here, where I was.
So no, the
saying
first year was a surprise.
It was a big surprise.
Okay.
And they can pull it out at any time.
Okay, okay.
They can pull
I
it
was just
out
curious.
at any
I
time.
thought you said last year we got it. I didn't know if it's
They
okay.
did. The first year we got that, Enterprise kind of picks a location, and that's where they locate all their cars, and somebody gets all the taxes. So a couple of years ago, we got a $1.5 million windfall, and I'm like, where we got this money? I called the county, and I'm like, why did we get this large payment? And they were like, Anderson, and it happens to be that Enterprise is in Anderson 5. They put the cars in Anderson 5. They were like, don't expect it. They move it around the state. I'm like, I'm like, okay, but how do I explain that to a board? That
Yeah.
I get it one year, don't get it the next, and I'm kind of at the mercy of somebody that's just kind of swinging it around. So we got it again last year, and they haven't told me that we're not getting it. And the county's pretty good when they have information to say, hey, you got, when TTI was coming off and the county was gonna buy that, they're like, you lose $400,000 off your property taxes because it's going to a government agency. They try to give me a heads up, a couple months heads up, hey, we're fixing to take this off the tax rolls and it's gonna impact Anderson 5. They do that to all the school districts when we go meet with them about quarterly. And, I have not heard that it's coming off, so I'm assuming that it's still.
Okay, I just,
Did you know that the Enterprise in Anderson is, I think, the third busiest Enterprise location in the country?
Well, I hope everybody continues to.
Yes.
it tells me we got cheap taxes if they want it here.
Yeah.
I have a question with the extra event security. Would it not go down with the extra lighting?
We would hope so, but unfortunately, law enforcement
They
knows
fight
that we
no
need
matter
them.
what.
And the cost continues to rise per hour that we're paying them. And I think the expectation from the board and the county and the community is for their people to be safe. So I will, Ms. Burris, that is the hope, that is what we've talked about. But obviously that will be up to Lieutenant Pillar and the schools as they do their walkthroughs that he was talking about every, week before all of these events. That after, maybe the first game or two at Westside, once the new lights are in, if we see we have too many SROs or can cut that number down and still feel good about keeping everybody safe, I'm sure we will do that. But yes, we hope so. This is not the number that was requested. Lieutenant Pillar and Mr. Grant, I believe it was 200,000, if I remember correct. And we've cut this down to where we really think we're gonna hold the people very accountable for their time, and make sure that our community feels that they're safe coming to all of our events.
Yeah, because they will fight. They will
Yeah.
fight.
Well, and I will say Lieutenant Pillar does an amazing job. He not only works with our local enforcements, but he calls and has virtual meetings and face-to-face meetings with whoever we're playing. And so they talk together to see if there's anything out there that they need to be on the look for. I mean, when I'm talking professional, they get drones, they show the fields, they show where things are.
That's good.
To really, they bring in the bomb dog,
Yeah, y'all
right,
search.
Lieutenant Pillar? And so he goes into a lot of detail to ensure the safety, so I feel very confident.
But before they could get there that night, these two guys was trying to stop the fight. The
Yeah.
girl flipped the man. Flipped him.
So we,
So, yeah, so we need,
I like erring on the side of caution with this one, so.
yeah.
So we felt like this would cover with our students skin in the game as well, like they do now. We felt like this was a good balance between the lighting, Lieutenant Pillar looking at everything, what we think that we're gonna need. It changes, and I'll just use an example. Lieutenant Pillar's gonna be like, what in the world? I apologize, that's for him roll your eyes. When we pay VHP, that is a big rivalry. Versus if we play Emerald and Greenwood, that's probably not gonna take as many SROs. But you put the Westside kids and the VHP kids, or the T.O.Hanna kids and the VHP kids together, and we're so close,
And the
and
Westside
they
and
know each other
T.O.Hanna.
anyway. They may be neighbors down on the line, and so there's a lot of talking back and forth. So that is a big game. So if Westside High School played a lot of, and I think they did this past year, they played some high-profile schools, and they had some extra events at the beginning of the school year that caused a lot of security to have to be used. The rate may be high this year, and maybe next year we play Emerald, and we play, that's not anything negative on Emerald, it's just that they may not bring the crowd a Bowling Springs, or these people may bring
Abbeville.
lots of.
Abbeville's coming to town.
They just might not take as much security, so it's gonna fluctuate, so we tried to look at what they were doing and look at their
Oh, yeah,
schedules and
played
just try to
before.
come to a good number that we felt was fair for everybody.
Thank you.
Sure. And we currently pay $50 an hour.
What's that gonna take for me?
That's what's required by the county.
They will
Per
this
officer,
year.
per hour.
I think
Do
it's
we have
every
a
2
minimum
years,
number
true.
of hours? We normally meet
It's
it.
usually 3, but the county doesn't always.
So even if we had 20 officers and a thunderstorm comes up and they work an hour, the county may not, but the city may say, you have to pay us for 3 hours. So we're bound by whatever the law enforcement agency requires. All right, the mentoring program, as y'all know, Mr. Galloway and his team started that this year. We started it this year through a grant. That grant, funding for that particular program is going to end at the end of the school year. So to continue going forward with that program, with printing of the material for new people as they come in, a lunch to celebrate, just different things to keep the mentoring program going. We put $15,000, we will need $15,000 for the budget next year. The next 2 items here, the 1.6 million and the 2.258 million, these are 2 different calculations for the same thing. So again, one of these numbers is going away. What this is looking at the teacher salary schedule and saying, do we want to increase it by $1,500 for every single scale, every single line item on the scale? Or do we want to increase it by $2,000? Or does the board have something else that they would like for us to calculate, then we'll be glad to do that. We will need to know, because again, either can, y'all can talk about it and say, and somebody can say, tell Dr. Kelly, we wanna do this or that, but at least if we don't hear that Tuesday night, we're gonna need a vote, so we can present y'all the budget for first reading in May. We just gotta have some decisions, so we can start moving forward with our work for the county board. The next three things are exactly the same item, except it's non-teachers and it's cost of living adjustments for custodians, culinary, secretaries, assistant principals. It would not include the principals since you've already adjusted their salaries. District level staff, 1%, 2%, 3%. There's the cost associated with that. Again, we would just need to know what you wanted, or a mixture of what you would like to do.
Do we know the teacher COLA? Has that been,
That would
did
be
you
the
cover that
15
earlier?
That would be the 1,500 or 2,000.
I got
We
you.
can do a COLA, we can absolutely calculate that if y'all prefer that
What is
over
COLA?
a,
Cost of living.
yes, cost of living adjustment.
She thought we were gonna get a Coca-Cola.
I thought you were we give them $1,500 Coca-Colas to teachers.
1,500
Yeah,
on
so
70,000.
we,
What percent is that?
If Mr. Dix, if you would like to see that, if you could let me know, if you'd like to see the percentage,
I was doing that real quick. 1,500 on a $70,000 teacher.
yeah,
Is what?
It ranges.
I don't know, I hadn't done it.
It ranges anywhere from about 5% down to
Okay.
about 2.5,
Okay.
because, every cell is different.
Right.
So if you take bachelor's and zero, it's a little over 5, if you go to doctorate to 28, I think it's right at 2.
Okay.
You happen to recall the last couple of years of, what the board's decided on the COLA increase as far as percentages? It's fine if you don't have it, I was just curious.
I have a spreadsheet in my office.
Yeah, it's fine.
It tells me
Don't worry.
everything for the last 20
It's okay.
years.
I just wanted a couple of years, but sorry.
Yes, I'll get that for you.
Okay,
We'll
thanks.
send that out.
I don't remember seeing a 3. One time we had a 4
One
during
time
COVID.
We've had a 4, we had several years of 0, then we had a 4, we've had a 2. I've got it from the time I started on, I have a spreadsheet.
So,
Usually about 2.
we're not building in an automatic increase for, like teachers are going at 1,500 or 2,000. 1,500 is funded by the state, supposedly.
Yes.
And so we're looking at non-teachers now to say, okay, we're not mandated by the state to do this, but we're either gonna do a 1, 2, or 3% increase for everyone. I would not suggest doing a 3% increase for non-teachers, and some teachers getting less than that increase. So, if our lowest teacher is a 2%, I would say a 2% increase for non-employees. Non-teachers.
Teachers still included.
But they're getting a step increase, right?
No,
And if you come on down, there's a step
yes, they're
increase
built-in
request.
step increase.
And if you come on down, there's a request for non-teachers to get that step increase as well. That again is the pleasure of the board.
And the teachers
I'm
get
just
step
showing that
increases
to
too,
you.
right?
That's automatic.
That's just-
Automatic step increase. This is
not
just
seeing it here.
keeping up with inflation.
And Bill, it used to stop at 22, is that right, 22 years?
I got you.
Yeah, the step increase used to stop at 22 years, for some reason, I don't know why, but we changed that.
The state may still stop at 22.
Maybe that's what it
Teachers
was.
does.
I'm pretty
It's
sure the
22.
state still stops at 22.
Yeah, but we decided
You
you,
went to 28,
yeah.
you can't really retire before 28, so we didn't want folks to go 6 years without an increase.
Yeah.
We have a lot of teachers that are past 28 that wouldn't, if you didn't, if you don't give the 1,500 or cost of living, they wouldn't get anything, because they're not gonna get anything over here in the teacher step mandate, because they're already stepped out. Now, to Mr. Bradshaw's point, the governor increased, and all the legislative bodies so far have increased the teacher pay from, up $1,500. Governor was trying to get it to 50,000. He was trying to go from 47 to 50,000. Both body and the State Department of Education Superintendent requested the same thing. But both bodies have said, no, we're only going at 1,500. So all we have to do is pay teachers $48,500. Well, we already exceed that in Anderson 5. We're already at 50,000. So technically, we don't have to give the teachers anything. That's not our recommendation whatsoever by any imagination. But that's why we started at 1,500, because if we were not at what the state already, if we were at the state minimum, we would have to do 15. So that's why we just use that as a starting point.
So the state only mandates the minimum.
State only mandates the minimum, and they only mandate 47.5. Next year, 47.5. Right now, I'm sorry, 48.5. Right now it's 47. Next year will be 48.5.
Just FYI, 1,500 of a $70,000 teacher salary is 2.1%. Make sure I did that right.
So, so we can do, so definitely, so we have the 1, 2, and 3%. Definitely heard Mr. Bradshaw saying that, and Mr. Duke's calculation there, that they not need to look at 3%. I'll be honest with you, the reason I put that on there is another district's doing 3% for their staff. I'm not saying that we should. I'm not saying that at all. But I just wanted to calculate it for you in case you heard that another district in Anderson County was going up 3%.
Can you share who that is?
Anderson 3.
And where are they
Lot
as
less
compared
kids.
to our salary schedule? So are we paying more than them now and they're
Teachers would
catching
pay
up?
more. I'm not
Or,
sure about the other.
are we
So
falling
on
behind?
staff, it's really all over the place. Teachers, yes, sir, we are paying a little more than them. Districts 2, 3, 4, and 5 are hiring much higher paid than Anderson 1 teachers. Anderson 1 teachers are not paid, they are the lowest in the county. The rest of us is kind of all over the board. Anderson 2 has the highest paid teachers. They beat us by $2. Their District 2, they're 50,002. We just did 50,000.
We need to do
So-
50,005.
We're gonna do 50,005. But so.
Yeah,
There's a little buffer in there.
I will not be beat by BHP.
Anderson 2 does have the highest paid salaries. I know that the superintendent's talked about teacher salaries. I don't know what Anderson is.
I think everybody's going around, well, everybody but Anderson 1. Anderson 1's trying to catch up with all of us, so they're doing a little much higher raise, but it still would be about the same as what we're paying. But I think everybody else is around 1,500. Last we
Because-
talked.
Yeah,
Now,
I-
that
I know
could be
District 1's
changed
already
by
reached
now.
out to me about millage.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
yes, so,
that's,
yes.
If we gave a 2%, is that on the full package with benefits and everything, or just their,
Just the salary.
just the salaries? Okay.
These numbers are just the salary increase.
On this one,
Where you
so
have-
this would be everything.
Okay.
So I have to do the
When you say
calculation.
this one, you mean all those in those 5 blocks, or you're just saying the teacher's
No,
salary adjustment?
Everything here has benefits in it. These
Okay.
2 right here would be teachers, so you'll need, you have to do either one of them. I would think the board would want to pick, and maybe not this one, maybe say, and you calculate what 2% is. Because doing it by, salaries, doing the $1,500 means every sale gets $1,500. That really impacts bachelors and zeros, so that hits your new folks coming in is big, that helps them a lot. The more tenured staff, $1,500 is not as much. I mean, that's pure math. I mean,
But at our worst, it's 2%.
no, it could be probably less than that based on what Mr. Davis just said. You said 70,000?
70,000, yeah.
And we've got, we don't have many teachers, but we have teachers.
What are you using for your average when you calculate now?
The state pays also on masters plus 12. And see, that's something else when you said the state's paying us. It's not the way it used to be where we got something from every certified teacher. The state does a calculation and they say, this is how many teachers we're paying for Anderson 5, and we're gonna pay you at a masters plus 12. I'm sorry, masters and 12 years of experience. So they determine that rate. So with benefits, that's about $69,000. That's what they're gonna give us for the number of teachers they deem the state's gonna pay for. So if you have a lot of young teachers, you make some additional money. If you have a lot of teachers that are more than masters in 12 years, the taxpayers have to pay what the state's not paying for teachers. I don't think that is new with the new funding model.
That's the only problem, giving a flat amount instead of a percentage like you do everybody else, I think.
They would
Because
pay-
your younger teachers are gonna get a higher increase than your I'm just looking at 3% to 2%, so, but still.
So it's what, I mean, so we can do the percentage calculation. Over the past several years, the state has mandated $1,500 per sale. So when they mandate something, but right now, because we're above the mandate, we don't have to do the $1,500 mandate. We can do whatever y'all like to do.
What was the teacher bonus last year?
15.
I think it
Teacher,
was 15.
it was
That's-
everybody.
that's-
It was
Everybody, yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
bonus.
Yeah,
That was
the bonus?
everybody.
Yeah, the bonus.
Yes, 15.
Returning employee bonus.
Yes, and that was just returning employees. So if you were new to the district, you didn't get that in
That's
August.
correct.
You had to come back. And just, again, everybody knows, that is not a budgeted item. That is
We
just.
kind of wait to
if-
see how we stand at the end
That's
of
just
the
if
year.
funds are available at the end of the year. That would stay. So that's, again, these two are
Couple meetings.
teachers, we can do this, or we can do a calculate, we can do a percentage calculation. If that's something you want done, please let me know, that will take a little bit of work, so I just need to do that. And then the next three there would be non-teachers, so this would be everybody else outside of non-teachers, taking all these skills and increasing them by whatever percentage you choose. It would not be that we would do all of these, you would do one of these. So that's why I tried to put anything in orange, it's it's something in that category, not everything in that category. And then if the board chose to do the non-teacher step, then it's $618,000. In my tenure, I've never known the board not to do that. But again, you don't have to. It's just something that is up to you. And that's the cost associated.
When we have not done them, we were encouraged by, during COVID, or
We had
when
one year
was it?
that the state did not do a new budget, so everybody stayed on the previous year's budget. But they came in November and gave a new budget, and we were mandated by law to give teachers the bump in May, so we gave it to everybody.
No, that isn't what I'm talking about. There was a time where nobody in the state gave a step increase. Nobody. And the following year, we didn't have to catch up. We could have stayed that year behind and you just lost 1 year credit. But all districts, most of the ones, all of them in Anderson County, I'll say that, caught up. So one year you got 2 steps because the following year you didn't get any. So,
Yes, sir, that was right after the big major budget cuts when, 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
So if you go look, we pull up an employee that's been here from then to now, or even then to 2015, you pull them up, and it says Amy Hurd, financial CFO, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 3, step 5.
right.
It's because we called it up. And there, you are correct, there are some districts that it took about 3 or 4 years to catch up, but employees started jumping ship to the other districts because they were getting frozen, their district wasn't catching it up, and then finally the state made everybody get caught back up. So we just didn't have a big, Ms. Lever, this is fun stuff.
Yeah, yes, it is.
So,
There's
again.
gonna be a test on this thing.
Yeah, and I'm learning a lot too.
Ask questions.
Well,
And
Amy-
then just, again, items that have come through the budget request process. There was a request for an increase in, the salary schedule for our HVAC technicians of $2.
How many of those do we have?
We've got 5 vacancies currently.
That was my question, yeah.
5 vacancies?
Yeah.
Vacancies, yes.
What do they make?
They
Start at
$23 an hour. They start at.
And in private industry, they're making 80,000 a year.
Yeah.
And they do what now?
Private
HVAC.
industry, they're making 80 or 100,000 dollars a year.
Maintenance.
Heating and air systems.
Is it
Well, I can't do
something,
that
and this,
one.
that you could contract out?
We do that when we can, but just having the resources.
Just to yeah.
Allows us to respond.
In other words, you need a response today, not next week, okay?
We did increase the pay by $2 last year. And so we are requesting that we increase the pay by $2.
And I'm just asking, if you've got 5 vacancies, if you eliminate 1 or 2 and just bump those salaries up, would that help you any, Wes, or?
We've had these vacancies for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why.
What do they start at?
$23 an hour.
So, a trained HVAC person makes the same as a new bus driver coming in.
23 versus 20, yes, sir.
And they've got the technical training.
Went to
I'm assuming
college
you
for a
did-
couple of
they
years to
have
learn how to do it.
It's a lot of hard work.
Certification.
Yeah.
That's what I do. It's hard work.
Yeah.
Wes, some time ago you were short in custodians and y'all raised salaries and got a surplus of applicants, and that's a different skill, I know, but
Yeah, it
can you
helps.
remind us of how much you changed the salary, if you remember?
We changed it, we increased it $1 per hour. And in that sense, the problem was almost fixed over time, in that sense.
For $1. It's amazing.
Oh, God.
But it's almost like nurses, theirs pay is here and we're paying here.
We're losing money.
But again, we have this conversation internally, we agree with you, but our nurses are 190 days.
No, I'm talking about the HVAC people.
And our
That's just kind of the
nurses-
same boat.
Our nurses want to be paid what they get paid in the hospital
Yeah.
system, working 12 and 14-hour shifts and holidays and everything, and we don't,
They work a 3-day weekend and make $100,000 a year.
we can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
We can't, because our nurses have gotten they've gotten a nice raise over the last several years.
Well, same as our HVAC, they're not gonna be doing going under houses and things like that, but it's a different mindset. I mean, but I know the dollar figure hurts.
So that would be the cost there, to add to that scale. The utility increase is 4%, that's spread out, obviously that's spread out throughout the district there. Maintenance of effort, that's a requirement for our special ed population that we have to fund out of the general fund, it's 1% of our current budget. And then contracted services, a 5% increase, that we have. So, if you take everything on this piece of paper right here, we're $2.8 million short. However, we're not giving 1,500 and 2,500. So one of these two numbers is gonna go away. Two of these three numbers are gonna go away. One of these numbers are gonna go away. So I really think that we're in very good shape where we stand right now, assuming that we don't lose funds as we continue through the process in Columbia. I feel good about where we are in the budgeting process. Again, what I'll need from you guys
Go back
is-
down to that bottom.
Sure.
And can you take out some of those numbers?
If you'd like to.
Take out,
Can
it
you-
doesn't matter, you pick.
Email
The
us.
3 and the 1, and just go with the 2.
Okay?
We already talked about that.
Yeah. And then go with the 2,000 teacher increase.
Okay. And what would you like to do for bus drivers? 2% on the
2%,
state?
2%,
On the state or the district?
the state.
So you wanna go the lower, you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, we've been bumping them up, I mean.
Yeah,
So, okay, so take away the higher number,
yeah.
Yes.
okay?
And I'd like to see us double the HVAC to $4.
Alrighty.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm gonna code this so I'll know that I did something different. So now we're to the positive.
So we can go home?
Are you on?
And we got 25?
That's my car salesman. Go high and come
Right
down.
now, that has no millage increase. That's meeting the state mandates. That is getting the items that the board requested. That is getting the additional items that, staff and principals have requested, and now that the board has requested.
And is that keeping the free lunch and all that
Yes,
we're doing?
sir.
All right,
We're
now
gonna
my,
meet the budget on that. That is going great with the staff.
now my next question.
Okay?
Are there gonna be any federal cuts with Department of Education, or do we know that
I
yet?
don't think this does.
You know, help.
What we're hearing, Dr. Kelly, tell me if yours have heard something differently. What we're hearing is the allocation is there for next year. It's the next year that is completely up and running.
Okay.
I mean, we've
So
heard
we're
every-
good for the, okay.
And we've heard everything from Title II's going away, which is where we do all our teacher professional development. Title I's gonna be cut. I'm not hearing that special ed's really getting cut. I just keep hearing that it's all moving down to the state. The state's gonna move it all down, the regulations down to the district.
Well, and the problem is we're going to the state, we're back to Act 388, getting the money out of their hands.
You tell me.
Well, the regulations come without the funding. That's what we don't know.
Yeah, okay.
So,
So for this coming year, we think all that, okay.
we are not making any plans from a human resource department to cut the people that are paid from federal funds.
Okay.
And we feel good that we have funding
Okay.
for that. We have a list of everybody that's paid out of federal funding. I have a list of everybody paid out of federal funding. As I got worried about what may be coming down if, as we were doing contracts, if we needed to start looking. But everything that we're hearing and seeing is that we're good for at least 1 year.
Is it, how many, number of that or dollar amount on that?
It was about $12 million in staff.
Amy, make a note on the HVAC that's $4 an hour, and would you email that to us?
I'd be glad to. Yes, sir. Yes.
Will that help you, Mr. Wayne Grant?
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.
So, I'm just running through here again. We're gonna keep the 4K funds coming in. We've got the decision made here that, we're doing the 2% on the state scale. I know that Dr. Kelly's gonna present a proposal for middle school and high school certified staff.
Let me,
Interventionist, I'm sorry.
question.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Mr. Grant, the HVAC people, do they have a District 5 truck they drive back and forth home? Would that help entice anybody, or is that,
Mr. Price, do you see me giving you the eagle eye?
all right,
You need to stop.
all right,
We've not heard that.
okay.
We're gonna have to do IRS, we're gonna have to add that to their W-2s.
Ooh,
Yes, we do. By law. Mr. Price? Too much
I just think
law.
because they could be, only thing I say, because they could be on call, things like that, things could happen. That's what I was,
Folks are on call, they take days. Come back. But they get mileage. They get mileage when they.
okay, I was just thinking if they're on call, it would be their equipment's there ready to go, that's,
Lots of liability running around in Anderson by trucks.
we got insurance.
Y'all
We got a good attorney.
Y'all are asking me how much insurance we pay.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else that you want me to do right now that y'all see?
Now, go back to these, assistants, where you gave me the 1414 was high school and all that, and then when you said 1744, now that's steps.
That is the price, the amount depending on what step I was giving you and what we're doing right now, those would all go up by 2%.
I'm gonna withhold comment till after we hear presentations from,
Okay, that's fine. So that, if any other questions for me, I will sit down. and-
Well-
You
Yes,
need to
ma'am.
sit down. It's too, I didn't mean it like that, but you can stand up for 2 hours at this point.
yeah.
So, do you typically give,
No.
No, I know
Should've
y'all
brought
must
you a
talk to
chair
me.
an
Sit
hour
down.
ago.
so the non-teachers would in effect get, what, 4%? It looks like they're getting 2% COLA and then they're getting a step. I mean, is that typical? You're giving them,
Teachers get a step too.
The step increase can be anywhere from less than 1% to a little over 2%, just depending on where you fall on the scale. And the teacher step is over here, so they're getting the same thing. It's just not listed over here because the teacher step is mandated at the state level. So they are also getting both of them as well.
Oh. No, the salary schedules, like for instance, and then when you come in on step one, that's the low amount.
Thank you, Ms. Hurd.
So I asked her, give me 15, which is.
Thank you, yes, you did a great
Well,
job.
Average, you know what I'm saying, and then the highest is that.
That's why we get, what is it called, qualified opinion review from the auditors.
That's right.
That's got it.
Well, how many years in a row have we had that, rating with our auditors?
I am so sorry, Mr.
How many years in a row have we had that rating with our auditors?
Oh, the entire time I've been here. If we don't-
Unmodified opinion,
Yes, sir. If we
right.
don't get that, then,
I just don't like that description of
it's
it.
terrible.
It is.
Yeah, I don't know
Crazy.
why they came up with that.
No,
That's just-
there are major issues if we don't get that rating.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for your hard work.
Keep the hard work, we appreciate your whole team.
We really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do appreciate you, what you do for us, we do. So now we're down to the draft agenda. The Board
Madam
of
Chair, I'd like to make a recommendation. Could we move that to after number 9, consent agenda? So as we go through the rest of this agenda, we can decide what can be put on the consent agenda and that put on the draft agenda.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes, because we
Everybody
got
okay
a
with
lot
that?
here, so we're gonna have to do, yeah, Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
We might not even get there.
Let's hope.
I figure by 11:15 we'll have.
No,
You'll be here by
I
yourself.
won't be here. I promise you that.
okay. So, oh, policies.
Now you're doing the policy.
Yes, ma'am.
Remember the policies that we had was BBBA, board members election. We've had
Yep.
that before. Let's get rid of it tonight.
Well, wish we could get rid of it, Madam Chair. I'm bringing the two policies, BBB and BBBA, back. Didn't bring them last meeting simply because out of consideration for more pressing items that we were going to talk about in executive session, so I didn't bring those. Consequently, BBB is now placed back on first reading because as I read the policy BG, each policy requires 2 readings at consecutive board meetings, so that puts it back, but it puts them both on the same schedule. So there've been no changes to policy BBB since its last readings. Anybody have any questions about that one? We were adding the word domicile, so I'll cover BBBA now, and I'll just read down to, does everybody have a copy of that or no?
It's on your
Is it in the
screen.
packet? Oh,
It's on your
okay.
screen.
Can I move that or no?
You can.
I can?
Or I can.
Yeah, I can.
Who was this written by?
The BBBA,
Yeah.
Yours
The
truly.
revisions,
and the 3 words was added by myself in.
But this is a policy we've always had, and
Yes.
we're just adding the three
Yeah, I don't,
words.
we'll look at the
Yeah.
bottom and see,
No,
goes
it's
back to
fine.
87.
It's fine.
So Allison Hannum was
It
involved.
looks different than our others.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that. I'm just gonna read it down to where the change is. It's, board member qualifications. Purpose is to establish the basic structure for qualifying for school board service. It reads, members of the board should have a genuine interest in and devotion to public education, a willingness to give time and effort to the work, a capacity for understanding people, and the ability to work cooperatively with others. Constitutional and statutory provisions require that all officers of the state and its subdivisions be qualified electors, that is, registered to vote, and be domiciled, is the add there, in their resident precinct. So I know I'd had some questions about the word domicile, and I mentioned some documents, so you can pass it down to Rick. I brought a couple for you to look at real quick. It's back front.
I don't have any objections to this.
Okay. The first one is the 4% assessors form, and it mentions the word domicile. It says, under the penalty of perjury, I certify that residence, which is the subject of this application, is my legal residence and where I am domiciled at the time of this application. So the assessor's serious about getting this 4% where you live.
Okay, right. You're talking about this because of what?
It goes back to the
Yeah,
election
no,
issue.
I don't
No,
think we
no,
need to
no,
go
no,
there.
Yeah, I
no.
don't
Wait a
know.
minute, wait a minute.
Mhm.
I'm saying you're saying something about this right here. What's
That's
in-
just confirming that the assessor uses the word domicile.
Oh, okay.
And they're
okay.
in determining where you live to get your full 4% property
Okay.
adjustment. On the back of that page is a form we're all familiar with. We have to fill this out to run for the board, and there's qualifications of the school trustees from the election commission. The first one says you must be a resident of South Carolina 2 years prior to the election in which he or she is offering. Number 2, must be a resident of Anderson County for 1 year prior to the election in which he or she is offering. Number 3, must be a resident of the school district in which he or she is offering. Number 4, must be a resident of the trustee election area in which he or she is offering. And then 5, must be eligible to vote. And of course, they use resident there 4 times, but in all cases, according to the code of laws, residence is determined by domicile. So if no objections here, we'll move forward. And
So does that in the past mean that we didn't have to be domiciled? We just had to be registered to vote?
I think, no, I think the word register, the word-
Registered to vote.
Yeah, you have to be
That just
registered
said
to vote.
registered to
And
vote
that's
in
what
their
it says.
resident area.
Yes, you have to be registered to vote.
I agree with you. I think we should put domiciled in there, but
Yeah,
in the
it's-
past, it's only been registered to vote.
Right.
If we register now.
But in that area, that's the confusing word is resident and how that's defined. So domicile makes it clear, because if you look that up, it's very
I
clear.
mean, it's fine with me. We'll have
Yeah,
a
me
time
too.
Proving different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, they had if you saw your clippings, about a month ago, I think it was in Florence, there was a board member that lost by 60 or 70 votes, and she challenged her guy that won. He was the incumbent, that he did not live there, and it ended up in the election commission. And you can go see a short clip that was on the local news where they proved domicile, that his domicile was in fact inside the district. So somehow, we had a way to do that, but that was the key word in deciding that case. So anyway, that's a good change, and that'll be for first reading. And
So this BBA is for our first reading?
first reading, and BBB had no changes, it'll also be first reading. But there were no changes, so I'm not gonna go over that again.
Good.
All right.
Mhm, good job on that trip.
No, that ain't the right one. No, flip the stuff over, hold on.
They all look the same, don't they?
Yeah, I flipped it over.
Policy DIG.
Okay, policy DIG. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the right one.
No,
Isn't that-
yes it is,
17.
yes it is.
Madam Chair, before we move, I just have something I'd like to say about this previous policy that we just looked at.
Uh-huh,
We must keep in mind that it also states that our school board elections are nonpartisan, and that we are governed by the laws that dictate how our elections are run and how our precincts are governed, which also means that you do not stand in line where voters are within the radius that they have dictated, which is, I think it's 1,000-foot radius from the entrance or from the voting polls. You don't stand there and campaign for or against anyone. And then to be a board member in good standing, I don't think it's proper political correctness to campaign against sitting board members. So I think we need to look at that also. If we need to revisit this at a later time to add that language to this, then so be it. But I do want us to keep that in mind. And since this is first reading, I'll digress at this point. But I think we need to keep in mind that our elections are nonpartisan, that you don't stand in line and campaign for or against anyone. And if you are a sitting board member, it is not politically correct to campaign against a different sitting board member. So let's keep that in mind.
now
I
which
think we need to-
policy would that be
Mr. K,
in? Oh, he
I'm
needs
sorry,
to
go
answer
ahead.
my
Go
question.
ahead.
What policy is that one?
Since we're talking about board member qualifications,
Put it in there.
I don't know if it would fall here or under etiquette. I've spoken with the state attorney, Scott Price, who's over the School Board Association, and he stated that that language could be worked in several different places. I don't know if we need to
Okay.
fit it in this policy, or if we need to look at creating
Well-
a different policy that talks about board etiquette. So that's something I'd like us
Oh,
to,
okay.
I'd like us to review.
I agree.
Okay.
We need
Sounds
to
good.
clarify, because it is perfectly acceptable to campaign at a polling place as long as you don't have paraphernalia and you're not giving things out and you're not telling people how to vote. It is perfectly acceptable.
You can't have campaign material
Within
within
the
1,000
1,000-foot
feet.
range, there's a sign that they put up at every poll that says no campaign, no campaigning, no campaigning material, no signs, no paperwork, no posters, no T-shirts, none of that beyond that sign.
It
And
does say no code campaign material, you're right, but you can't, per the law, we need to do what the law says. The law, you can stand there.
I
A lot
didn't
of
say you
people
couldn't
don't.
stand there.
You
I'm
can't-
saying you
You can
can't,
speak to people.
you can speak to people, but you don't campaign within that that line. That's why it says no campaigning.
No, it does
Okay.
not.
Not within the
Okay,
line.
but he's saying, what
You're incorrect.
he's
Okay.
saying is
If I
that,
showed you a picture of someone with campaign materials within that radius, would that dictate a violation? I'm asking the board.
yes,
May
Yes.
I answer?
Okay.
Because I want to be sensitive to what you're saying. I just want us to do what's according to the law. And I want us, I know this is a sensitive issue. I know this was a tough election. I know it. I know this was a tough election, but I don't want to create policies that don't run with the law. If the law allows for it, we can make all the policies we want, but if the law
Well,
allows
then-
for it,
well,
the
then-
policy's no good. I mean,
Well, you're going, when you say domicile, somebody's getting for 4%. I don't know how you're gonna prove where they live, their mail, Department of Revenue says that's their home, that's all you have to go on.
Well, you have to sign that form under
But
penalty
if
of
they-
perjury.
if
If they
you-
perjure themselves.
That's their
well,
discretion,
that
whether-
is.
if they got multiple houses.
Well, that's not hard. We do that all the time with kids. If they're,
These
if
aren't
they're out,
kids,
if
these are
they're, if
adults.
they're out of zone.
These are federal laws,
Don't be mad.
no state
Well,
laws.
going back to
don't be mad at it.
Mr. Kay's point, the election office allows for a person to greet. You can greet for a candidate.
Yes.
But I
You
don't
can't
think I can
stand up
stand
there,
in
you can-
line and say, I'm Sandra Leverett, I'm running for
You can't do
school
that, no.
area, please vote for
You
me.
cannot.
Thank you.
Not only can you not do that, but you cannot have any literature that states I'm being supported or I'm being endorsed by yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
You can't have any of that within that radius. Now, if we need to, point of privilege, Madam Chair, I think at this point what we need to do is, let's have Dr. Kelly and her staff look at a policy on board etiquette. And let's set a policy on board etiquette, and we'll move from there.
Yeah.
And
Important,
we'll make sure that it is, we'll make sure that it runs concurrent with what, it runs in line with what is set by law. But now, law and etiquette are two different things, let's keep that in mind. So we want to make sure that we are within law, but we can abridge that with etiquette, okay? So if I say something is unethical, then it can still be legal, but it's still unethical. And if we dictate that we have chosen something to be unethical, then you don't do it. And if you're in violation, then I like to look at what the penalties would be: censorship, yada, 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 recall, whatever. So I'd like the information on that from our attorney.
before we move on, policy DIG, undesignated fund balance, was discussed at the last meeting. I made the motion that we approve the superintendent's recommendation, and it passed. I don't know why it's back on the agenda here.
Was that a first reading?
I think it was first
It
reading.
was
so this
first
would be
reading?
Second reading, yes, sir.
Understand.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
I couldn't get it together, it was just all one founder.
If I may, I just wanna, if I can make, I know this is a tough topic and it's heated, but I just feel like it's good if we just get it out. I know everybody's ready to roll and move on. But if you have issues at the polls, it is important, I don't want you to have any issues at the polls, or if you feel intimidated, or if you feel coerced, it's important to report it to the poll manager. And then on top of that, it's important to report it to the election commission who handles it. So I just want everybody to know that you have the ability to make those reports to the poll manager. If you're being harassed or something, nobody wants anything like that, you know. So report it to the poll manager and report it to the election commission. And for the record, what a nonpartisan, what it means that this position is nonpartisan, it means this.
Point of order, Madam Chair, I don't think we need a class on what that means.
Well, we know that it
Now, I don't
means,
mean to cut you off, but I don't think anybody on this board needs a class on what that means. And we're looking at the time, and we don't need to go over, you know, just ludicrous stuff. But what I do want us to keep in mind is that even though we may feel like, oh, this is something, we need to get it out, if I've already asked that we have the superintendent review us setting an ethics policy, then I would think that would incur all of us giving input when that time comes. So I'm happy with what you're saying, and I don't have a problem with that. And I don't want anyone to run afoul of the law. But I do have citizens who have contacted me that have stated that they have pictures, they have signed statements from individuals that have stated that they reported this information to the people at the election office, and there was nothing done. And that's why it was furthered up to the state. So now, if we need to share that information at the proper time, I will.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I'm gonna finish, it won't take but a second. what
Okay.
it means for this position to be nonpartisan, and you can look it up on Ballotpedia, which it means that your political affiliation is not beside your name on the ballot. That's what it means. It doesn't mean anything beyond that.
But what it also means is that you don't go around with papers saying this person's endorsed by, because you're not running under that bridge of a party. So you can't be endorsed by someone. They can support you, but they can't endorse you, not if it's a nonpartisan election. Now, I didn't want to go into that, but since you felt the need to tutor us on what nonpartisan was, I thought I'd share that information with you.
Okay.
You
Okay.
cannot stand there and say, I am endorsed by, Bill Thompson is endorsed by, Harold K. is endorsed by, not if it's a nonpartisan.
Okay.
You can have your views, but you cannot stand there and tell people that you're endorsed by, because those individuals who go in there and vote straight party, they're gonna assume this is in line with me voting straight party, and that's why I brought this up.
Okay, thank you for all that information and schooling us and all of that. But I really don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this again about whatever happened. Let it go. We're through with it. We've had an educational part of it tonight. So my thing is now is that the ABB and the BBB will be finished up on our.
We'll put it on Tuesday's agenda for approval of first reading. Yes, ma'am.
Still first reading?
Yes, ma'am, because it would be second reading in May.
Can we waive,
Yes, sir.
second reading and go ahead and get it on the books?
Yeah.
According, it's supposed to be an emergency to waive second reading.
After tonight, I think it is.
I will leave that in your court.
It is an emergency. Okay. Do we do that now or later?
No,
We
later
can't
on.
vote on
Do
it.
it Tuesday.
Okay. DIG, did we talk about that?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay.
There's been no changes, so.
Okay, and this is this will be the second reading.
On Tuesday night, yes. ma'am.
Okay, good. Policy HJH, student absence and excuses.
Yes, ma'am. So we have, that is in your packet on the screen. This is talking about making just a few changes to our student absence and excuses policy. Adding that people can now, if you look at the bottom of that, it's highlighted in yellow. People now can present electronic excuses. Our current policy just allows written excuses for parents if they take their children to the doctor or things like that. So we've added that. You'll see that. And you'll also see on the second page of that policy, if you scroll up on your computer, there's a paragraph that is highlighted, and I'll read that. This has been a change to this policy that we're recommending. Of course, it's your pleasure for that, but it says a maximum of 5 days for the year may be excused with valid parent notes. Any parent notes after the 5 excused day will be counted as unexcused. Extenuating circumstances can be handled through the school administration to address absences beyond the 5 allowed parent notes. A single parent note may excuse consecutive absences but cannot be used for absences on non-consecutive days. For example, one note can cover a student who is absent for 2 or more consecutive school days, but separate notes are required for absences that are not on back-to-back school days. And then one additional change in the policy, you'll see where it says the students who are habitually tardy, down at the bottom, that second paragraph, they would be referred to the district's attendance office. Well, now Mr. Galloway does an incredible job with that, and that's the Office of Student Services. So those are the changes we've made. And the reason for those changes, we have done a really thorough job this year of studying our absenteeism and trying to really put plans in place at each school with the help of principals, identifying how they can entice children and help parents to understand the importance, because our chronic absenteeism rate in Anderson 5 is 26%. The state is 22.5. District 3 is higher than us. So it is a statewide issue. And I know where you've seen Charleston, they're actually paying families, if the kids are perfect attendance for a week, every family gets $25. So if you come to school every day for a whole week and not tardy, not absent, your family will get a $25 gift card or gift. I know gift cards are ugly, Ms. Hurd, I'm sorry. Checks or something. So a lot of people around the state are trying to really press, it's important to be at school, and it's been an issue since COVID.
Why
So,
did we change from 10 to 5?
Mr. Galloway,
It
do you want
just
to?
puts us in line, well, as Dr. Kelly mentioned, one is we can catch kids a whole lot quicker, but also it puts us in line with our neighboring districts. When we have a student who is, placed on an intervention plan and then it ends up being a little bit more severe, they are recommended to our county board of education. Three of the current, three of the five, neighboring districts, they have, a 5-day policy and whatnot. In addition to that, it allows for our county board of education to sing from the same sheet of music, when they're talking to students regards to absenteeism. Very important, and hopefully, again, as I mentioned earlier, those students can be catched a little bit earlier other than allowing them to get all the way to 10 days. So,
And if they go over 10 days?
they go, well, really, right now, they go over 10 days, the principal has to approve each one.
Right, but what if they just missed
So,
10 days?
yes, sir.
They're not supposed to graduate, right?
Sir. Well,
Or progress to the next grade? or-
Yes, sir. Then you throw in from the academic standpoint, especially the high school, you're looking at FAs and things of that nature, so.
Yeah. And then Saturday schools.
Yes, sir.
I'm not a big believer in Saturday schools. Maybe I just don't know enough about it. But I do know that it helps our graduation rates, but I'm not sure it helps the academic.
Well, I know the students at the high school, luckily, my daughter's in high school, and as of right now, she hasn't had to attend Saturday school. But I know, the instructional department works very hard to ensure that our students are getting that. It's not just them just sitting in that room and just wasting time or whatnot. But, I know Ms. Gay does a great job in ensuring that her department gives our kids an opportunity to catch up to some learning that they may have missed, so. Yes, I think that this would be a great move for us to move down from 10 to 5 and really to catch those kids who are chronically absent and get them the help they need. And I had an opportunity, the teachers, Dr. Kelly is working very hard on this, and some of the principals have sent me some names, and I've talked to some parents, and some of the parents, it's as simple as turning into medical excuses, but then unfortunately, some folks who really want to make excuses for their kids. And there are some parents out there who really need help. That's where our mental health services fall in line. Working with some of our medical professionals to get them into the doctor's office to get the kids the help they need. So I really think it's great.
Yeah, we put that extra layer in this year when we realized that chronic absenteeism was so high. We asked every month, we pull the unexcused absences for every school and we give it to the school. Even though they have it, we pull it for them and they're making conversations and phone calls. But any child who has more than 15 or more unexcused absences, those names go directly to Mr. Galloway and he and Ms. Pillar contact each of those parents. So we've tried to double down and really make connections with our families and our guardians and really stress the importance of school because I can't teach you if you're not here. And so that's what we've been doing this year.
But when they know they can miss and then go make it up on a Saturday, where's the incentive what incentive is it to drop it from 10 to 5?
I think it's like Mr. Galloway was saying, it keeps us in line with the other districts so that when the Anderson County gets involved, when we have those attendance plans and things like that, they're on a cohesive line.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, but another thing that we could do,
You got a question? I'm sorry.
I've studied this and I'm in support of it. I'm just trying to understand, like, so you get a certain number of excused absences too,
If you
which
look-
are, I don't know, I was running through that, and I can do it later. I don't wanna hold us up. I just wanna make sure I got my head around it for
Yes, I will pull that out of here and I'll send it. How
Okay.
about that? Will that work?
And we don't expect any like pushback from parents, and I'm not talking about ones that, I'm not talking about like chronically truant people. I'm talking about people that may travel a lot or whatever. I mean, do we expect?
Well, it does say in the policy that principals, when they get to that point, they can excuse it for parents.
Okay.
So if it's extenuating circumstances, yes, sir,
Thank
the
you.
principals have that leniency. Yes, sir.
is there any more discussion on that? Okay, let's go on to ARJHR, students' absence and excuses.
Well, this is the administrative rule, Madam Chair, for that policy. And again, it's just there for, it's the same information, changing 10 days to 5.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. policy JFB school choice, discussion and cluster choice update.
Yes, can I speak,
Yes.
Madam Chair? From the website of Southwood Academy of the Arts, it says our school is a 100% magnet school that auditions and accepts middle schoolers within the Anderson 5 district. It is also composed of a select group of high school students that travel there. And then also on the website, it says they serve 386 students as a pure magnet school. I just would like us to go back to where they audition only and not be included in the cluster choice.
How many, of those students, choice students do we have at Southwood, do you know?
This year it's seven. This year it's 7. And they're in 7th grade, 1 in 8th grade, I think. 6 and 7th and 1 in 8th.
And they
And
got,
I'm sorry.
no,
Madam
go
Chair.
ahead, you go
And I
ahead.
will say that while they did not audition because they were through the cluster choice process, Mr. Lockus has done a phenomenal job, and he has worked with each student to identify the area of arts that they are talented in, and they are getting serviced in that, so they are in that piece of it.
Right. I feel like they couldn't, if you had some openings, you could go back to the list of the kids that had
Yes, Mr.
auditioned.
Lockus is doing that, yes, and he has, and that's why there's no spaces available in 6th grade, because
The
in
problem we
past-
had is we've only got one middle school in this side of town, so they need the option if we're gonna have it on both sides.
I think
So
that-
now, excuse me, Southwood, you could get in by audition, but don't they also have a lottery process, or no?
No, it's
They
just
cut that out.
audition.
So that's just either audition or
Yes,
cluster
sir.
choice.
Yes, sir.
How does cluster choice get in?
There are spaces, because what happens in 6th grade, they usually have around 500 kids
Mhm.
apply and audition for 6th grade, and they only take 150. And so what happens in 6th grade, lots of kids, I shouldn't say lots, that's not true. It's about 10 to 15 kids decide they want to go back to their home middle school because either it's easier, their friends are there, or they want to play sports. Not that they can play sports at Southwood, it's just easier to go to practice if you're at the school. And so that leaves some openings. In the past, prior to Mr. Lockus, they didn't go back to the 6th grade list, the waiting list, to fill those open positions, but Mr. Lockus is doing that now.
So let me stop you right there. Is that called cluster choice? Is that what that's called?
No, cluster choice is when children, or families, I should say, families want their students to go to a different school within the West Side cluster or the T.O.Hanna cluster.
And is that a lottery?
That is a lottery if there are no spots available, yes.
Okay.
But if there are spots, there's no need for a lottery if all the requests can be filled,
Right.
yes.
So are lotteries being held, I guess, just to clear up my confusion,
Yeah.
are lotteries being held for Southwood kids, some of those kids, any of those kids?
Our lottery,
Is a lottery being held to get kids in? Because what Cindy was saying, am I right, Cindy? That you've got 1 and 6 and a few in 7th and 8th grade that are there that did not
Yes.
audition. Was that through lottery?
yes, that was a lottery, because
Okay,
we had
okay.
more requests from Robert Anderson
Right.
wanting to go to Southwood than we had openings. So Mr. Galloway and Ms. Gay, they did this right here, we recorded it, we
Gotcha.
wrote everything down, and there was a lottery for that, yes.
And there were no students on the waiting list or the ones that auditioned that didn't get in?
Mr. Lockus checked.
He'd
with
already
us,
worked
yes,
that?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I got you.
So, but it is his goal and it is his plan to continuously keep those full. So if that happens, there will not be any openings in 7th and 8th. But through normal attrition and trends, there's always been just a few slots in 7th and just a few slots in 8th
Yeah.
that are
And
open.
yeah.
Well, when there's just a few slots, then anybody in that district can go there, right?
No, ma'am, that remembers audition, but if you apply for cluster choice from Robert Anderson, then you're available to go to those through the lottery system if there's more requests than there are openings.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, board compensation update.
Go ahead, Mr. Yes.
I figured that.
That was not nice.
Probably not let him talk.
So after consulting with Allison Ham's board attorney, her recommendation regarding the conversation regarding board compensation was to ask the South Carolina Ethics Commission for their opinion on it. So we reached out. Courtney Laster is the general counsel for the Ethics Commission. She gave her opinion, but we're also on the May 15th South Carolina Ethics Commission meeting agenda where, again, Allison wanted a formal opinion from the Ethics Commission about when the board could enact the policy, or not necessarily enact, but when you could essentially begin getting paid. Allison wanted clear confirmation that it was either A, you could start immediately upon adoption of the policy, or B, at the November 2026 would be the first time that you could actually draw down essentially payment after the next board election. So at May 15th, the Ethics Commission will be hearing that, and we'll issue a formal opinion.
Yeah.
We can bring back to you.
I do have a
You say
couple
the
of,
next election, that would be November 25.
26,
26.
November 26.
26. We don't have one, it's every 2 years. So I do have a couple of questions. So all of these other districts, how did they get
Go to
theirs?
that.
Well, that's what led Allison to requesting that. Allison's,
How do they increase it?
Allison's recollection is that there have been some districts that have done it immediately. That was the conversation. When we reached out to the Ethics Commission, again, their general counsel responded back, no, districts should not do it immediately. It should only take effect after the next general election. And so that's what.
How does the state legislature increase their pay?
As far as I know, pretty much federal,
They
state, county, municipal, anybody when they do it, it's the next general election. So like if the United States
Increase it-
Congress passes, a resolution increasing.
I would assume increasing is easier than just getting it started completely. It's already there. I think it's easier for them to increase something that's already there than it's to start it completely new, would be my guess.
Yeah, like Drew.
Because I know Pickens County,
just did it.
Pickens
That's
increased
Pickens.
theirs.
Yeah, and Pickens was kind of the reasoning why Allison wanted a formal opinion from the Ethics Commission. Now, that being said, I mean, that the policy.
I think a few years ago Charleston tried to bump theirs up astronomical.
Yeah, several districts have increased it over the years. May 15th, we're on the agenda, you had a request to be on the agenda, I think 45 days in advance, so we're well ahead of that, we did it right after our meeting. We've had emails back and forth. Again, the general counsel gave her opinion of it, which was the next general election, but she said it needs to get a formal opinion from the Ethics Commission. So you had to be on their agenda to do that.
Maybe we just need to ask Pickens.
Do that.
Yeah.
That's kind of where
Well,
we
when I was reading it, I forgot, I still had it on my phone, that this board could do this, that you didn't have to go to all these people that we've gone to. Why would we go to the lawyer for that?
She handles pretty much all the policy, because even the policies, well, even what Mr. Duke's referenced, I think Mr. Duke's put all the language, he still ran it through Allison, just to make sure it's in compliance. I mean, for pretty much any of the policies we do, we kind of craft and work with Allison, kind of gives, we give them this right to actually upload them into the
In other words, I imagine a lot of them have done it and asked for forgiveness down the road instead of get permission to do it.
That's one of those things, I mean, because truthfully, unless it's challenged, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if other districts maybe have that.
You can bet ours will be challenged.
Granted, like, I'm not overly familiar with them issuing formal opinions like this. I've had, had conversations before with people who've had to go before the Ethics Commission for like questions and stuff, and typically, it's.
And the Ethics Commission is paid personnel, correct?
Right.
It's funny, how it's all paid personnel that has oversight over this. Politicians, all of them, they're all paid. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, May 15th, and I've sent them all the information. I let them know, if they would like, anyone to be there. I mean, I don't mind going, obviously, we would extend it to anybody, but they.
Yeah, I ride with you.
It doesn't have all the information needed, but I also did confirm that, essentially the petitioning party is more than welcome to be in attendance, as well within their rights. They have all the information, from the board meeting.
Their hearings aren't joking.
Okay.
Probably won't know anymore until before, or until after.
Thank y'all.
Well, it'll probably be 26, but thank you
Oh,
anyway.
yes, ma'am.
The next thing is.
Ms.
Go
Lambert,
ahead.
Chairman, excuse me. meant to make a motion to make Southwood, as it originally was designed, 100% audition, pure magnet school, and not the school of choice.
But no motions can be
No
made.
motion
This
will be
is
made
a
in committee of the whole.
Yeah, committee. of the
You
whole.
have to do that Tuesday.
We have to do it Tuesday. Make a motion Tuesday.
Thanks for giving us the heads up.
Never made a motion before, I don't think.
That's good. You're good.
Includes and final board meetings,
So we'll have
establish
to
the views and goals
cancel
of
that.
the schools.
Blame you as well.
And then they set the standards for the performance of schools and superintendents. The school board is the community's education watchdog, ensuring that the taxpayers get the most of their tax dollars. So found the local boards establish the vision of the goals. So I say, I don't understand. Okay. Let's go, local board, that we did that, annual national dropout prevention conference,
Jerry,
35th.
Madam Chair, I'll go to that one, but we do need to go back to local board, but I'll go to this one first. It's just that we have always, the board has, some members of the board have always been in attendance at the annual National Dropout Prevention Conference, and that is coming up in October 12th through the 15th. And policy BID says that I need to bring that for you. I just wanted to know if there was any interest, because we have sent folks in the past. It is in Orlando. And so we have sent board members in the past to be representatives there, and I need to get folks registered if folks are interested. So I just wanted to bring that forth if anybody's interested, and then I have to get approval from the board on Tuesday night to pursue that. But that's just why I was just bringing it for conversation to see if anybody was interested, and then I can put that on the agenda for Tuesday night.
Okay.
Is Dr. Daggett still
He
leading
is,
that?
he is,
There's
yes.
a lot of good information disseminated at these conferences, and you network with some very interesting professionals that have made it to the top realm, if there is such a thing in education. And they put it out there for you, whatever. If you've got questions, they answer them. They give you resources to meet your needs for different problems that you may have arising in your own personal district. It's a good place to go, good information setting.
Okay, so you wanna go?
Most definitely. And, well, I'll wait. At some point, and I just want to throw this out there, since this is a committee meeting, the alternative school, and I apologize, Madam Chair, if I'm out of order. Does anybody have a problem with me mentioning this with the alternative school?
I don't.
With what we're paying, and I meant to ask Ms. Hurd that, what we're paying to the alternative school, has someone contacted us about the increases, because they're looking to add a assistant director, and it's needed. They definitely need an assistant director there. There's a marvelous change that's going on at the alternative school. They're doing a wonderful job. Numbers are a lot better than they were. There's a lower recidivism rate, and I'm in favor of us, whatever our portion is making it happen.
Well, I know Mr. Galloway does a great job working with the Renaissance Academy and
Okay.
keeping in touch with that.
Right.
They have not sent anything my way yet of
Okay.
increasing that, but I'm sure that's coming, and as soon as I do, I'll let you know.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go back to the other one, local board course.
Yes, ma'am. On Tuesday evening, we'll just bring before you, and I'll explain it tonight in case you all want to put it into consent agenda items. We have a local board that we would like to get approval from you all, and I hope it's in your packet so that you can see it. But it's capstone internship, and it's for seniors. Is it in your packet? Yes, okay, good. And this is just a work-based learning course so that students have chosen a career field in high school. You know how they have their IGPs and they take courses for completers that in certain areas could be a CNA, it could be veterinarian, whatever those might be. And this course that they would take in their senior year would allow them to get work-based learning credit. And it gives an outline of those courses. Because it's a local course, it has to be approved by the board. So we've given narratives about each of the courses. One is just a regular course, and then one is honors. And you'll see the difference in honors is they have to complete an additional project within the community. So we would like we are recommending the board approve that so that our seniors can take part in that next year. I just think that would help them. As I'm meeting with kids, I meet with our students once a month, and I was talking to them actually this week. Actually, it was Thursday, it was last week. And they were talking about how they feel like high school's not preparing them. I said, what do you mean? They said life skills. We need life skills. So this work-based learning course would be one of those that truly helps them. So it's just our recommendation that you all would approve this course for our students so that they could in turn be a part of the work-based learning.
Okay, that sounds good, but now do we need to, hire a teacher for this? How much is this course gonna cost?
Ms. Gay, you want to explain who's going to be teaching this and overseeing this?
Yeah, this will actually just fit right into our regular teaching opportunities. It will not require additional staff members, and they will be selected seniors.
Okay. Sound good.
Both schools, did I hear that?
Yes.
Both schools.
Yes. Okay.
Sound good. And I was thinking then IT, what is it, TI?
AIT.
Yeah, that's,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sound good, yes. Yeah, I'll go for that. Consent agenda items.
Madam Chair, I'll just recommend to the board for discussion that we put policies, DIG and JH, under the consent agenda. Well, BBBA and BBB. Rick, you still thinking about passing on first reading?
Yeah.
We would have to pull that out separately, wouldn't
I think so.
we?
Yeah.
I think we should. Okay. And
And then the DIG.
DIG.
The JH, you
Can y'all tell me what you think? If I wanna be against the ID, you know, I don't wanna be against the rest of it, so
Vote
can
no.
we just pull it out?
Pull it out
Yeah.
separate.
We vote on them
If we could
separate.
pull it
Yeah, we
out.
vote
Sorry
on
for
them
the
separate.
trouble.
We'll vote on
That's
separate.
fine.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So now we got JHN and local approved board course. That probably is the only other thing I see there. Anybody else see anything else that can go in there?
Do you want the minutes in there, or you want those separate?
I haven't seen the minutes. We will have them when, by tomorrow?
You'll have them Friday afternoon.
I'm open to having the minutes in there.
She gotta work tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes.
normally have done that.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Minutes,
So local
yes.
approved course, minutes.
Will
And
the
then
Southwood
JH.
thing
Should
be
be
on there
out.
too? The Southwood.
Yes, ma'am, I'll make sure that's on the policy. Let's make sure.
Now, what you want on the policy?
Oh, I was just saying on the agenda, the school choice.
That had to be
I'll add it.
separate. Yeah, that
I'll
had to be
add it and add
separate.
it separate.
And we'll have to vote on that, right?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
the separate
Make a
ones we will,
motion.
yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So we got JH and local board approved in minutes. Is that what you got, Dr. Kelly?
I have JH, BBB.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
We
putting those out
we got,
separate?
if we do it on first reading, we'd have to pull them out.
All right, so then it's BBBA as well?
Correct, both of
So
them.
the only thing is policy JH, local approved course and minutes.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going,
Well, policy DIG and JH are in the consent agenda, is that correct?
Not
We
DIG.
pull them out because we have,
Oh, we had one.
Right.
I
Yes, sir.
understand. Thank you.
Okay. And then I'll add policy JFB, school choice,
Thank
to
you.
the agenda. Yes.
and we're going into executive
Executive session.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, we're now going into executive section. Do we need to take a break and then
Yeah.
go?
Yes, please.
I'm ready, Mr.